the tape, let's grind. Shut up. The tape. Let's grind. The tape. We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach, and the bench deep. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunker down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Found guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Kirby Smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back, like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape.
We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape,
The
bro.
tape.
Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up. The tape.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Wednesday evening. We got a saying around here towards the end of the week. I know it normally comes on Thursday, but this week it's coming on Wednesday. Last show, best show. Boys, tomorrow is the wife's birthday. I told her I'd take the day off. Sorry, I'm being lazy tomorrow. I'm pulling a Kirby.
No, that's called being a good husband.
Yeah, so we got a day off tomorrow for all included. That includes the audience. And we have a loaded show for you guys today as well. No opening. The opening is the SEC schedule release. It was just announced, the rundown. Do we want to go week by week? Let's do it. I'm going to give you the premier matchups in every single week of next year's college football SEC slate. Week 1, some big ones, boys. Out of conference matchups. Texas goes on the road to Ohio State. LSU goes on the road to Clemson. 2 massive brand football games right there to kick off the college football season.
Yeah, I like that. I think that the Syracuse matchup with Tennessee is interesting. You know, Syracuse finishing their season strong, Tennessee having high hopes going into next year, make your first college football playoff. Then you got to open the year with an ACC team that seems like they're trending in the right way, but Tennessee gets Nico back as well. A lot of interesting things going into week 1 matchup.
That's the type of week 1 matchup where you come in and you have it circled for so many days. Is this the best week 1 matchup ever? Like, the fact that you have those types of brands, those types of games, and it's not just brand names. Like Clemson versus LSU is going to be a very good game. Obviously, Texas versus Ohio State, two teams that are in the playoff this year, is going to be a very, very good game. So
Just announced today, Garrett Nussmeier going to return for the 2025 season. Don't know who the Clemson quarterback is going to be there. Klubnik does have another year, though, right?
I think so.
I think he does. He redshirted first year under DJU, so he probably is going to be back in that quarterback or in that matchup as well. Moving on to week 2, Kansas goes on the road to Missouri for the first time since both of those teams were Big 12 opponents. Michigan at Oklahoma. My question in that football game, do we see Bryce Underwood for the first time in a national premier matchup? And then a little bit of an attempt to get not necessarily revenge, but revenge for Virginia Tech as Vandy goes to Va Tech in week 2.
That's an interesting week. I think the Kansas-Missouri one, I don't think people are excited enough about that game. Like, that is a hate-filled rivalry that's been dormant for a decade now because of conference realignment. So,
I wrote sleeper week next to that one already, week 2.
I like it.
Yeah,
That's a good claim.
Georgia's starting the slate with some real heaters. We'll get to that in the local hour. Let's go ahead and move on to week 3. Texas A&M goes on the road to Notre Dame. Georgia gets Tennessee early on in a September matchup. Earliest matchup those two teams have played since 1995. Florida at LSU week 3, and Wisconsin goes on the road to Tuscaloosa to give the finish and the culmination of that home and home between those two programs.
playing Tennessee and Georgia in that early slate just feels right. For a while, I think the last few seasons, they've kind of been a late October, November game even. It's weird. Those two teams always seemed like that matchup just seems to feel better when it's in the first month or so of college football.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it was for a long time. Of Georgia and Tennessee played like end of September. They're one of the first conference opponents you typically had at the beginning of the year, and then it gets pushed back. So interesting now this year that's your first conference game. You got to go on the road. You're going to have a new quarterback. A lot of headlines around that matchup.
Absolutely. On to week number 4 of the SEC slate. Another sleep week. This is the get married weekend. This is the get married weekend of college football right here. Florida at Miami, Arkansas at Memphis, and you got a bunch of SEC versus Southeast, FCS Southeast. So go ahead, mark your calendars. Week 4 of the SEC slate. Go ahead and get hitched.
Shame
the
on
one,
you.
huh?
Yep, that is the one. That is the go ahead, take your late, last summer vacation. Maybe you got a Florida lake trip or a beach trip planned for late September. That's the one to do it early October, week 4. Go ahead and get it in.
That's the conversation of if we had to pick a weekend, I'm okay. I could live with this one. We'll be
Facts.
all right.
I see the chat going ahead and using their creative minds to go ahead and start giving awards away to themselves and self-categorizing awards based off the title of tonight's show. I like that. I like what they're doing there.
Chat putting in work.
Chat putting in work, just like us. I appreciate that. Last show, best show from the chat as well. Shout out, chat. Chat, am I getting cooked? Shout out to the chat. We appreciate those guys for being here tonight. Week 4. Go ahead, get married. Go ahead, get out of town. Don't have to worry about college football. Unfortunately for us, I think that's the first bye week for Georgia.
It is.
Yes.
And we're gonna have not jack shit to watch on television.
No, guys.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
We don't
This
know what the
happens
rest of the
every-
college football world looks like.
This happens every year where we say, man, there's no good games on. This week sucks.
Catch me watching a screen shaker at UMass week 4.
Notre Dame got Northern Illinois again?
Exactly.
On to week 5, it's a big one. Bama at Georgia, both off of a bye week for the second year in a row. Get these two premier programs getting a week off to prepare for one another.
First time since 2015 that Alabama will be making the trip to Sanford.
About damn time.
Notre Dame at Arkansas, week 5.
That's an interesting one. And you know what? Shout out to Notre Dame because we always give them shit for saying, they don't schedule anyone now.
Yeah, congrats, Notre Dame. You scheduled the 10th best perennial SEC program.
But you know what?
I was gonna say Arkansas is not the hardest team to play. They did schedule Texas, to be fair. So,
But that's so smart by them. You have Texas A&M, so you already get like a true tough SEC game. And it's like, well, we got 2 SEC opponents. You guys claim
Absolutely.
that this is the kings of college football. We came to play them twice.
SEC titles amongst Notre Dame opponents in 2025? 0.
that's fair.
I do hope that Texas's strength of schedule is a little bit tougher next year, so we stop having to listen to non-SEC homers tell us, oh, the SEC must not be that hard. Texas year 1 ran through its regular season slate.
Well, I mean, hell, they're going to Ohio State in the first week. So.
I know they're out of conference schedule next year, still solid, but The SEC slate this year was like, it gave everyone an opportunity to think that the SEC ain't what it is, and it was a fallacy.
Texas is just a really good football.
No, Texas is definitely a really good football team, but it's not like they ran through the murderer's row of the SEC in the regular season. Okay, that was the only point. Week 6, Vandy, revenge game for Alabama. They go on the road. How about that, by the way, being a premier matchup? When they on their SEC network revealing the schedule, the first game they popped up in Week 6, Vanderbilt on the road at Alabama. Dari Noka talking about it being a dynamic matchup.
Alyssa Lang dared to say it might be a rivalry. Might be the brewing of a rivalry right here.
Interesting.
Ooh.
I think Week 6, spoiler alert, I got a top 5 games coming up. I think Week 6 has got the best football game of the year. Of the year. In all of college football, my eyes will be transfixed on this one for 4 quarters.
You're looking at something that I don't know about then.
Texas at Florida.
That's the best one.
I think it is for me, and here's why. I think there's a potential that we look back at Texas at Florida, Arch Manning versus DJ Lagway. I think 10 years from now, we look back at that matchup and we're like, dude, we got to watch that in college football. We got to watch these two quarterbacks go at it, as true sophomores, or it'd be a junior for Arch, but as sophomores in their second year starting, Arch first year starting. I think it's a massive matchup. I think it's a massive quarterback matchup. I think NFL scouts will be there in droves. I think it's a huge football game.
So you think this is like the 2016 Oklahoma versus Texas Tech game that everyone talks about?
No, I mean, that one everyone talks about because of the offensive style that Texas Tech ran and the team that Texas was and it being 2 versus 5.
No. Texas Tech versus Oklahoma. The Baker Mayfield.
Oh, Mahomes game. I thought you were going all the way back. Graham Harrell, Greg McElroy, or not? Excuse me, Colt McCoy. I thought you were going back. OG Mike Crabtree. I thought you were going there. That's where I thought you were going.
No. I'm talking.
That's
about
that catch, by the way.
Dick.
Yeah. But no, I think it's that big of a quarterback battle, and I'm intrigued by both of those football players. So yeah, Week 6, I'm looking forward to it.
I think it could be like the equivalent of like a Deshaun Watson versus Lamar Jackson type thing.
Yes.
Ooh. That game was 42-36. I mean, that game was absolutely electric between those two.
There are 7 SEC teams on a bye in Week 6.
Rest up, boys.
Week 7, however, Week 7 about deep as an SEC slate can get. Oklahoma and Texas in the Red River. No bye week for the first time, I think, ever for those two football teams going into that one. Texas on the road at Florida. I think Oklahoma plays UTEP or something the week before at home. So slightly, not necessarily fair towards Texas there. Arkansas at Tennessee this weekend, or that weekend in Week 7. Georgia at Auburn. Florida at Texas A&M. Bama at Missouri. South Carolina at LSU. It's a deep-ass week, Week 7. Get a nice comfy seat and make sure you got the beer on ice.
Yeah, that's one of those games where it's like I can't watch all these games. There's no way you can watch them all and consume them all. So that's a great problem to have.
Find me on the sideline of Georgia at Auburn with 2 phones, separate AirPods, and figuring out a way to shoot the game as well.
Did you say Kevin Gates lyric?
I like Kevin Gates.
Okay, J-Will. I'm impressed.
Y'all don't know about me. Y'all don't know me like that.
You don't know me like that.
This man's over here citing Kevin Gates.
I mean, 2 phones. I mean, my wife quoted that one the other day. It's not necessarily a hip-hop connoisseur.
All right.
Damn, bro, let him have his moment.
One for the phone or one for the low. One for
searching
didn't
for...
even get the lyric right.
What is it?
One for the plug, one for the low.
Low.
I was trying to find a good R&B concert to go to. Rod Wave, nowhere to be found.
Oh, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing
Let's have
tonight.
Music off between Brooks and J-Will. I want to see this.
Yeah, no, please no.
Week 8, Tennessee at Alabama, 3rd week in October. Ole Miss at Georgia, Oklahoma at South Carolina.
That's going to be a very interesting week just because of the amount of kind of quote-unquote rematch games. It's a rematch game for Alabama. You get them in Tuscaloosa. Obviously, Georgia gets a rematch against Ole Miss. Could be a redemption week for about, or it is a redemption week.
I hope that Oklahoma is an improved football team next year because they're crucial to some of these games actually living up to the hype.
Yeah, we can't have another down year for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Brett can't either. On to Week 9, Texas A&M at LSU, Bama at South Carolina, Missouri at Vanderbilt.
Get a couple headliners.
Get a couple. On to week 10, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina at Ole Miss, Oklahoma at Tennessee are the premier matchups that weekend.
Oklahoma is in all of these, man. They got a brutal schedule.
Yep. I think it's something like they finished with 7 or 8 SEC games in a row. All 7 are against teams who had winning records this year.
Tough.
And a couple of playoff opponents in there as well. Week 11, LSU at Bama. That's really it that week. Week 12, Texas at Georgia. Florida at Ole Miss. Week 13, Tennessee at Florida. Week 14, rivalry week. Really only turns out the Iron Bowl, Texas A&M at Texas.
It is interesting for as fierce of a conference as the SEC is. The rivalry week that you have isn't really that strong. Like, yes, there's the Iron Bowl.
Yeah.
Yes, we now have Texas A&M, Texas. But other than that, like, there's not a lot of interstate rivalries. Well, there are interstate rivalries, but there's not a lot of interconference rivalries that play off. Like, South Carolina plays Clemson, Georgia plays Georgia Tech, all the others. It's very interesting. Florida plays Florida State.
I don't know if I should take offense to this or what. Brooks looks like a state trooper who will talk football with you, and right when you think you're getting a warning, he walks back with his ticket book.
You should definitely take offense to that.
Yeah, man, that guy sucks. Top 5 games of the SEC season next year. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's hear 'em.
Now, some of these are non-conference football games,
Okay.
but here we go. Well, should we go 5-1 or 1-5? Let's build. 5-1. Bama at South Carolina. Ooh. Especially if it's a night game. You get that one at Willie B. Nighttime football game. Bama on the road. Don't know who their quarterback's going to be, but that's going to be a primetime matchup. I'm locked into Lenore Sellers next year. I hope they do a good enough job surrounding the rest of that roster with SEC caliber, high-quality football players. Number 4, Bama at Georgia. All the way down to number 4. Number 3, Texas at Georgia.
Valid.
Big-time football games. Number 2, Texas at Ohio State. And I've already spoiled my number 1 football game.
Interconference only.
Yes, I already spoiled my number 1 football game of next year. It's DJ versus Arch. It's Arch versus DJ. It's Texas on the road in the swamp. You don't think this one's going to live up, do you? You're already sleeping on this matchup.
I'm not sleeping on.
Shame on you.
Like, as far as it goes from the major cataclysmic matchups that will be taking place in the SEC this year, yeah, that one's going to be one we look back on with kind of like, wow, we got to watch 2 NFL quarterbacks battle it out. But do we think that Florida is going to be a playoff contender this year? Like, we're certain Texas will be, but I don't know. It just feels like looking at it from miles away, like Georgia, Texas is a bigger battle. South Carolina, Alabama, 2 teams that were this close to being in the playoff this year. Like, Florida was a 7-5 team this year. And as good as they are with DJ Lagwin, as much of an improvement as we expect them to make, like, I don't know if that's the matchup I'm most excited for right now sitting at this table.
Well, and it's very, very early on in this process, too. This is why I proposed a question. I think it was last week where do we really think that South Carolina and Florida are going to carry this hype into next year? Because I feel like we've been down this road for both of these programs before, and neither one of them actually ended up living up to it. I think that this time around, though, they actually have a base solidified within their programs. Both of them have 2 really good quarterbacks. Both of them have good young football players on both sides of the football. But it's a matter of getting everything put together and actually getting to that point in the season where that matchup does actually live up to the hype. I hope it does.
What's your favorite game?
Texas, Ohio State. That's a fun one. I like that one a lot. That's probably my number 1.
The grand clash of Texas and Ohio State is probably the best one.
Where's
But
that
I mean,
one being played at?
like Georgia, Alabama,
Columbus.
Alabama,
Columbus.
in Sanford. Like, this is probably a little
Yeah.
bias of me, but that's going to be a massive matchup.
So I guess Texas will play both of these Big Ten teams on the road and then play them both at home in sequential years, I would
think
imagine. So interesting to see there, nonetheless. All right, we actually have some news to hit on you guys today. We got What If Wednesday. Bill Belichick officially, unofficially headed to UNC. It's now a felony to embarrass Ryan Day in the state of Ohio. So watch out. A lot of people on that watch list. End of season awards hitting you guys tonight. Round 1 ticket prices, something to be noting there. Brian Hartline expressing interest in potentially leaving Ohio State. I felt it was worth noting tonight and talking about it. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there has been a playoff ticket already punched in 2025 for the playoffs of 2026. Do you know who it is?
Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon's already punched their ticket. Here's Oregon's 2025 slate, and we can end it right here. This is 12-0, winning their games by an average of 12 points per. Montana State, Oklahoma State, at Northwestern, Oregon State, at Penn State, Indiana, at Rutgers, Wisconsin, at Iowa, Minnesota, USC, at Washington. Guys, they're going to go their last 8 football games not having played a ranked opponent. They're going to play one ranked opponent potentially all year at Penn State. They got the Indiana shake of this thing. Oregon's already in the 2026 college football playoff. You can stamp it right now. Congratulations, Dan Lanning. Boys, when I read that schedule out, the only thing I can think of is we have got to figure out how to balance these conference schedules. We've got to. Because we've got teams just getting lotteries, schedule lotteries every so often. Just like, oh, we can just circle that one. We're going to be in the playoff that year. Ooh, we actually have to survive this year. We got a tough break.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you would do that because it's kind of predicting the team that's going to be good coming into the year. And I get that, like, there are some sure bets. Like, you can always assume Ohio State's going to be a good team. You can always kind of bet Penn State's going to be a really good team. But, I mean, a lot of these other teams, like, it's very hard to tell.
Yeah.
If you'd come into the 2024 season and thought, okay, we get to play Vanderbilt, South Carolina, and Kentucky. Kentucky might be a tough matchup. You know how Mark Stoops' teams are. Kentucky would have been the easiest gimme out of those 3 games. So it's just like you can't really predict it. And I mean, I guarantee that when we get into the thick of the schedule, it's certainly a favorable schedule.
Okay.
I'd be shocked if they
Sorry to cut you off. UNC football has officially tweeted out that they've hired Bill Belichick. So that is official, and we'll get to that in just a second.
Chapel Bill is here, baby.
Yeah, Chapel Bill. I want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at BetUS. If you are looking for a new book this season.
Better.
Oh, we're better tonight. That's on me. Let's start over. Nix that right out of your head. Want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Better. If you're looking for a new place to place college football props this season, enter more than or less than key stats on keynote football players in big-time matchups over at Better. Use promo code Brooks today. You'll get a 100% deposit match up to $200. Again, that promo code is Brooks. Head over there to Better today. Get in on the action. It's the best place to be. If you're using some other place-to-place props, you're in the wrong spot. Head over to Better. Use promo code Brooks for 100% deposit match. Shout out to Jay Will for the correction there. That's big-time stuff from the production staff. Boys, Belichick officially named the head football coach at North Carolina. Thoughts? As you're wearing North Carolina blue, let's start with you, my guy.
Unintentional by that. I really don't know how to feel about the hire. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I don't like it. I think I'm just kind of neutral here. I think I'm kind of optimistic of how maybe it could work out. I do think it is interesting, though, that it is a 3-year contract. So that kind of leads me to believe this is just kind of like a temporary maybe kind of thing. Maybe see how it goes. Obviously get an extension if things work out and if he wants to remain there. Just don't really know how I should feel about this one.
This is UNC's Deion Sanders experience. Like, this is the what do we have to lose type hire here. If he turns the program around, if things go well for us, we look like geniuses. We elevate our program to heights that it hasn't seen in however long since UNC's been a competitive football team. If not, it's, you know what, we're still where we are. It's not like we have much to lose here. It's not like UNC's in a title window right now where you got to make the right hire. You were just under, 5 or 6 years of the Mac Brown experience. Things went well sometimes. You had a couple of big wins in there. You were picked to make the playoff a couple of times preseason, but nothing was so glamorous about it that makes you go, man, we really got to get this hire right. We're going to start stumbling away from our goals.
Apparently the hire was brought on by a guy by the name of John Pryor, who's the chairman of their board of trustees. Apparently this was a straight-up coup by this Pryor guy. He went out and got the money behind Belichick and then just walked into the meeting room one day and was like, we're hiring Bill Belichick and all you guys can just eat it. And that's ultimately how this came down. I thought this quote from SI was really, really interesting. This comes from Pat Forty in an article I read today. This was a quote provided from a source from North Carolina. Quote, "These people make Auburn look organized."
Ooh.
Yeah, apparently this was not like a unanimous decision at North Carolina. This was one big wig walking in there going, hey, this is the Belichick thing and y'all can kiss my ass.
I guess that kind of makes sense too, why it's like officially unofficial.
Yeah,
like
why it took forever to report.
Yeah, like it seemed like it was official a couple of days ago, but it wasn't really officially announced yet. And then today it seems like it became official, but there's still like nothing officially from the school. So just some interesting things.
And look, we watch a lot of film around here, obviously. And I do think that week to week, we see teams that are obviously well coached and well prepared, and we see teams that are not. And the teams that are obviously well prepared and well coached, shocker, they seem to win a lot of football games, right? So I see a lot of people throwing water on this hire already and just saying, oh, well, tell me what he brings other than championships. Well, he brings real high quality football coaching, obviously, right? And in college football, that matters. Being gap assigned, like defensively off rip, they're going to be tremendously better. Automatically when he walks in, this is a North Carolina football program that's defensive coordinators over the last several years have been Gene Chizik and Geoff Collins. Like, come on, dog. This football program is going to get tremendously better on one side of the football today. They just got better immediately by, I would say, 10 points on the defensive side of the football. So I think, off rip, they become much better and much more fundamentally sound. And this is still a fundamental sport. Still so much more of a fundamental sport. Yes, it's about talent acquisition, but not necessarily in that conference. And we talked about that last night. It's just not one of these conferences that has 10 teams ranked inside the top 30 every year in recruiting rankings. This is a conference that has 1 or 2 or 3 teams ranked inside the top 30, and everyone else hangs out 35 to 55, as has UNC for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, it's one of these what do you have to lose things here. Like, you're not an SEC school that's used to competing for titles. You're not a Big 12 school that if you mess this up, you're risking losing the fact that you could have control of this conference. Like, you're not the have in this conference in the ACC. There's not much you have to lose here. Go get someone like Bill Belichick to where if it's a home run hit, you look like geniuses. Otherwise, it's just, oh well.
This is a prime example, and this is at the highest sport and the highest level. He left that New England roster last year. I think they were top 10 in the league in terms of rushing defense. They were in the bottom 5 this year in rushing defense. Just immediately. And all that's week to week run game preparedness. That's it. It's how well you get your team prepared to fit the run, be in the right gap every down. And that is paramount in college football. He's immediately going to make that team better.
Well, and it seems like the defensive-minded route was kind of where they were going because Pete Nakos is reporting that Glenn Schumann met with him twice, and people are saying that if it was not Bill, they were going to be making a run for Schumann.
Ooh.
So Georgia fans thank Bill Belichick that you get to keep your defensive coordinator.
Yeah. That's nice.
Very.
Any other thoughts on this? My one question I have about this, he's going to hire a bunch of NFL guys. That's been the reporting on this. He's going to bring maybe Matt Patricia in as a DC. My question about this is, who's going to be the young, energetic football coach that is the hound on the trail? Because, yes, we are in a name, image, and likeness era, but the New England Patriots were kind of known for dollar bin, value bin in their talent acquisition strategy, right? Making sure they squeeze the most out of players that maybe the rest of the league overlooked or maybe they could get at a value price. Yeah, they might be able to do that again on the college level, but we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of high school football players that you've got to dwindle down. It's a much, much larger and more vast process than what even the NFL has to go through every year.
And maybe that'll help because he has connections with his son. His son has been in the college level. Maybe he can find some people there.
Not known for his recruiting prowess either.
Maybe not him specifically, maybe not his own son, but maybe you can find – and Bill Belichick has connections everywhere. I mean, this is a guy that has been surrounded by – has been in tap with a lot of good college football programs because he's drafted from them. And he found great football players from those programs. So you'd imagine he'll get some pull somewhere. But it might also be something that there's a learning curve to it. Maybe it takes some time to really figure out the personnel there.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be an immediate fix. And also, like, the thing holding Bill Belichick back that I think might be an issue here is, like, where's the star player you're going to get? When Deion came in, he brought Travis Hunter and Shador with him. Like that, and you'd have to argue that you take those two guys off that team, and Colorado is not the football team it is at all. So I think you need to get a star for it to kind of be a thing. And we just talked about how recruiting is kind of the question mark right now for Bill Belichick, simply because it's something he never had to do. You don't recruit in the NFL. He hasn't coached in college in decades. So I'm interested to see it. And yes, he will need to find a young guy to do it.
I know it's one player, but Austin Blaschke was their starting center this year. He hit the portal the moment Mac Brown was fired. Guess what he did today?
He announced he's coming back.
He announced he's going back to North Carolina. So, again, one player, a veteran football player got 1 year left of eligibility, played at Georgia, now is at North Carolina, but he obviously had sway. It obviously impacted the decision of that man. So, like, I find it hard to believe that if you're staring down, am I going to play at Virginia Tech as a high-ranked 4-star in northern, or, in that area of the country? Am I going to go play at Virginia Tech, or am I going to go to North Carolina and play for Bill Belichick? I think this might have swayed your decision.
Sure, absolutely. How could it not?
I just think people are rushing to this is going to suck. This guy was terrible when he got done with the NFL. Look what it was without Tom Brady. Like, he's a great football coach. And great football coaches normally do really well in college.
I mean, all it's going to take, and like for Dion, all it took for when he went to Colorado was the fact that he was bringing Shadur and he was bringing Travis Hunter. Once that happened, people were fully on board of, oh, they got some absolute ball players now in Colorado. It seems like Dion's going to be able to get some people around them. People started jumping on board. All it's going to take is Bill Belichick to get a couple solid players out of the transfer portal. Maybe you hold on to Bryce Baker as well. People will jump on board.
Guys, did you know it's a felony to embarrass Ryan Day?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
it's now a felony.
Not yet.
Not yet, and it's probably not going to be.
It's definitely not going to be.
It's definitely not going to be. But there was an Ohio State representative in the Senate today, Josh Williams, introduced the OHIO Sportsmanship Act bill. This would make it a felony to plant a flag in the center of Ohio Stadium. This is not for the entire state. This is just for the Ohio Stadium. This is just for the Buckeyes. In other words, again, it's a felony to embarrass Ryan Day.
This is more of an embarrassment for the Ohio State football program to show that you have a legislator who knows for a fact this bill is going to get shot down. Like, it will not pass.
Apparently, it's already passed the window. There's a certain window. You can introduce bills as long as you want, but there's a certain window where after this certain date, no bill gets passed anyways. Classic government.
Right. So, I mean, like, it's literally just trying to be like, oh, yeah, watch this type thing for Ohio State.
It's though I know Josh Williams' name, I would imagine. This is a political move.
Oh,
this is all
sure.
this is.
I mean,
but go ahead.
Ohio State fans were trashing on it. Like,
Yeah.
There were Ohio State fans on social media today saying, like, this is why everybody hates us. This is why everybody dunks on us. Like, it's for stuff like this. So I don't think there was anybody that was on board with this other than, maybe a name play.
So a lot of people calling this soft and this individual soft. I did some reading up on Josh Williams today. Josh Williams is an impressive story. This is a shtick. This is a ploy. But Josh Williams was a former homeless man that self-funded his way through school and then went and got a law degree and became a senator at the age of 38, having been homeless at the age of 30.
So he's not soft.
He's not soft. This bill, soft.
Respect to Josh Williams for all you've accomplished here.
Out the mud, Josh Williams.
Literally.
Out the mud.
Shitty bill, though.
Shitty bill. We'll stay on the Ohio State kind of timeline here and topic of discussion. Obviously, Rich Rod was hired at West Virginia today. Congrats, Rich Rod, returning back to West Virginia. Maybe we can talk about the idea of returning to Old Glory with Scott Frost at UCF and now Rich Rod back at West Virginia. Two totally different stories. Rich Rod kind of ran out of, no, he went to Michigan after that, right? So he left West Virginia for a bigger job, very similar to what Scott Frost did. Anyways, Rich Rod hired at West Virginia. But the news out of this was that Brian Hartline interviewed for this job, okay, expressing interest in becoming a head coach. Now, a lot of people, after years, he got on that staff at Ohio State in 2017 as an alumnus, having played in the NFL, wanted to get his start his career in the coaching, started as an assistant, immediately got bumped to a wide receivers coach in 2018, and has been there and got promoted as an offensive coordinator in 2023 briefly. Called plays for 3 weeks. 4 weeks before Ryan Day took it back over. Now he's the co-OC, but not really the OC. He's back to the wide receivers coach as Brian Kelly was brought in to be Chip Kelly was brought in to be the offensive coordinator. So this tells me that Brian Hartline obviously has interest in, life elsewhere outside of Ohio State. And we also know that life elsewhere outside of Ohio State is not going to be as an offensive coordinator, because he's not going to leave, and he makes $1.6 million to be the wide receivers coach at Ohio State. But I just thought it was interesting, man, because, if Brian Hartline leaves Ohio State, or at least is expressing interest in maybe potentially leaving Ohio State, that's their most important position coach on the roster, bar none.
For sure.
It's not even close.
I mean, how much of that is Brian Hartline kind of wants to leave Ohio State, or Brian Hartline's doing a leverage play here.
How much more money are you going to get to be a wide receivers coach than $1.6 million, dude?
It might not be money, though. It might be some stipulations and things like that, or like, hey, we need to go out and recruit this guy, or let me have this on the trail, or give me X amount of resources. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm just guessing. Like, it very well could be that Brian Hartline's like, hey, let me dip my toes into the head coaching business here. But
that's where my brain goes. When I start seeing you interview for jobs, it lets the world know you're interested in taking one of these jobs, maybe for the next cycle and the next round of things, very similar to what we just saw with Glenn Schumann. If I find out Glenn Schumann's taking a second interview, I now know what I need to know. I know he wants to be a head coach, and that was the question I had about him. I didn't know if he wanted to be one. But you're taking second interviews, you want to be a head coach, and eventually you will be one.
Yeah, and this is always a process of maybe not the first time, maybe not even the second time, but once your name starts getting out there, once people know this guy's taking interviews, this guy's interested, then yeah, that you put yourself on the market, and it seems like every passing year, every passing job, that likelihood of you leaving and finding a job is only increasing.
Just interesting.
it's definitely interesting. It could also be
Also interesting timing. You know, you got guys on your roster right now talking to you about portal entries maybe, and you're flirting with another head coaching job.
Yeah. I mean, like,
but there's no other time
I was
to
just
do
saying,
this.
the timing's
There's no time on his
The timing's
end.
interesting because
Yeah.
the timing's unfortunate. Like,
Unfortunate, not interesting. You're right.
Yeah.
It's a good correction of usage of words there. Diction, as we call it here. Syntax, that's the context with which you use the words you choose, right? Diction's the choice of words.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, he's on fire. Where do we go next? Let's talk about these round one ticket prices. These are intriguing.
It's very weird because you have some games that are like, okay, I understand why that's really expensive. Like the Ohio State Texas or Tennessee game, that makes sense to me. That's $207. That's
Cheapest tickets, $268 is what I saw.
The weird one though, and I don't know if you're aware of this.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how much Indiana Notre Dame ticket prices are?
Cheapest or most expensive? Because I have both. Cheapest is around $775.
Wild.
Yeah, insane. Most expensive ticket for that football game, $8,700.
I could buy a really, really good car with that.
Yeah, nice 2012 Honda Accord.
Ooh.
I mean,
Talk to them. A little rip into the e-brake right there.
If there's something we've learned though about the Notre Dame fan base is that when they see an opportunity of like season ticket holders in that group where
Oh, they're going to pillage.
yeah,
They're
know
going to pillage
that
the village.
people are going to want to be in the stadium, that they can make some dollars off of their ticket, they're going to make sure they do that while also giving up their seats to potential Indiana fans.
Yeah, so cheapest tickets, Notre Dame, Indiana, $775. Tennessee at Ohio State, $268. Clemson at Texas, $224. SMU at Penn State, only $103 to get in the building there.
Very interesting.
Very, right?
SMU fans don't want to travel up there.
I guess not. My next question about this is, of those four hosting sites, right? Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, what's the toughest place to play? Trick question. They've all had home losses this year. Mm-hmm. But which is the toughest place to play? I don't know what happened right there.
Interesting.
I'm going to say Penn State just because of the matchup. Like, I know that the quote of the Tennessee players saying that that Ohio State isn't as loud as SEC stadiums is going viral, and you should not say that ahead of one of your biggest matchups.
No, you shouldn't.
But I think there is some truth to that. Like, it's not as daunting for Tennessee to go on the road to a place like Ohio State because they have played at Alabama. They have played at places like Georgia. They have played in the SEC for a long time. Whereas SMU is going to a place like Penn State. That probably is going to be quite different compared to any other thing they played.
They're 14 months removed from their toughest road game being at UCF.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? Like, it's the reality of the situation.
So that's why I think Penn State is the toughest environment for the team that is going there.
From a matchup standpoint, it's absolutely Penn State. I think Texas is probably one of these really hard environments as well. And I know we talked about, it also might be a bias for me since we went there this year and you got to experience that crowd, which was a very loud crowd. But I don't know. There's something about the Penn State lore that kind of makes me feel like it might be a little bit overhyped, similar with Ohio State. So I'm going Texas.
Do you know which of those stadiums has the highest capacity?
I believe it is Texas. They have 104,000.
Incorrect. Per my Googling today.
I would have guessed Ohio State.
Incorrect.
Oh, it's Penn State. They have like 111.
106. 106 at Penn State, just over 100,000 at Texas, and 103,000 at Ohio State. So well over 100. I didn't realize Notre Dame Stadium only holds 77,000.
It's not very big.
No.
it isn't.
It's one of those cathedral builds.
Yeah. What would Notre Dame be without Rudy?
I mean, they'd probably still be a really, really big school.
I got to thinking about that today. As I listened to Benjamin Watson wax poetically about how Notre Dame means something in college football because of Rudy. And I was just thinking, man, like, how many people just would think Notre Dame was just this school if it wasn't for Rudy?
No, I mean, I don't think Rudy is what made Notre Dame big. Notre Dame got big because they were like one of the first and only nationally televised
Oh, no, they were a
teams.
powerhouse.
Yeah, in the 40s and 50s. Like, they were.
The Four Horsemen, man.
Exactly. So, I mean, they were college football beforehand. And then, obviously, the
What, that Newt Rockne?
Yeah, Newt Rockne. The Notre Dame lore is obviously kind of added to for Rudy, but
And they had Lou Holtz. So that's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was that just so you could do the Lou Holtz?
That's like a mixture of Lou Holtz and Billy Madison.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Where are we now?
Should we do end of season awards?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's end with best game. Let's start with
I
most.
had a hard time deciding this one.
Yeah, let's start with most exciting player. Who's the most exciting player this year? I have 4 names, and based off pre-show notes, we didn't have any of the common names here.
No.
4 players?
4 players. I have
It's
4.
supposed to be you deem one player. That,
No. I have 4.
Bro,
This
wasn't
isn't
a
the
list.
Heisman.
You got to pick one.
It's a ballot, and then I'll solidify with my one answer at the end.
All right, well, go ahead and list your.
Travis Hunter, Caleb Downs, Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty. And I think I'm going to settle, and it is settling, on Travis Hunter. I felt like I found myself watching Colorado only to watch Travis.
Huh.
Yeah.
But the film watch, probably Caleb Downs or Tyler Warren.
That's fair. I mean, that's like watching film is not as exciting as watching the end game and being like, oh my God, did you? Now, obviously, there are different components of excitement from it, but
I think this player for me epitomized exciting because you truly just had no idea what was about to happen. It could either be catastrophic or it could be one of the greatest things you've ever seen. I went with Lenore Sellers.
Oh, I thought you were going Taylor Green.
No, that's a good one too. But
Yeah.
Lenore Sellers this season was so exciting
So fun.
because as you watch the game play out, this guy was going to break a 40-yard run. He might fumble the next play and then it get completely neutralized, but then he might take the next one for 80 yards to the house.
Yep.
And then he might make a freaking throw of his life the very next play after that. Like, it was so up and down, it was hard not to be excited watching him because you truly just had no idea what you're about to get play in and play out.
I felt like that was also what Jalen Muro was. Like, you very, very quickly within the first 5 minutes of a game were like, oh my God, we're going to get a master class today, or like, ooh, this is going to be ugly. I can't wait to see how it goes. I put Diego Pavia.
This guy's going to fail miserably. I can't wait to watch.
If you don't like Alabama, yeah.
Who'd you go with?
I went with Diego Pavia simply because of the way that the energy that he brought. And I get it. The play style, not as exciting, but
Can't wait to watch Diego Pavia throw for 180 yards.
it's exciting, dude.
Shit gets me off. Whoa.
I mean, if we're being fair,
Whoa.
Caleb Downs never like lit up the stat sheet with the exception of the Indiana punt return this year. It wasn't like he was consistently a very exciting player to watch.
It's a non-ball knower talking right there.
From an exciting standpoint or from a film standpoint, I get from a film standpoint, I get that. From an excitement of I'm turning on the TV so I can watch Caleb Downs play, he did not deliver that often.
I was watching Caleb Downs.
You were watching Will Howard to make sure that he cracked down his leg every game. You were not watching Caleb Downs.
Hey, the good thing about those guys playing on opposite sides of the ball, got to watch both.
You get to do
Got to
both of
watch
them.
both, you know? Most improved team this season, who is it? In season, by the way.
Right.
Not they played terrible last year, they were good this year. Who mid-season turned their season around the most?
Rock chalk, baby. You want to talk about a team that was in the absolute dumpster.
Get the rubber bands and the needles. He's sparking up again.
I mean, they're just completely thrown away. Nobody was even talking about them. They were like a third thought this season of if Kansas was in a game, you were never even going to put that one on main screen. To then they went 3 weeks in a row of pulling off some upsets and completely turning their season around. People are now excited a little bit maybe about Kansas going into next year. Heck, it was even being advertised on the SEC schedule release of Kansas versus Missouri That's how big of a turnaround they had. I think to close your season that way, from being, what were they, 2-6, something like that at one point in the year. Closing your season that way, I think, is massive for like it could have gone drastically horrible, but instead you turn it around and you have something to be excited about potentially.
Love that. Love that.
One. I went with South Carolina. If you'd have watched them for the first 5 weeks, they had a squeaker against Old Dominion. They did have a scrappy loss against LSU, kind of made people think, okay. But from the turning point of that Ole Miss game, if you'd have watched them and lay an absolute dud against Ole Miss, 27-3, if I'd have told you that that was going to be a team that, for all accounts, had a very solid argument for being in the playoff. I mean, they won out from there. They beat teams like Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, squashed or beat Missouri, beat Clemson, a playoff team. Like, South Carolina had a very, very much upward trajectory from the season.
You know, it's a random note here, but I don't know why I got to thinking about it just now. But how about all the freshmen that made drastic impacts on this season this year? Right? Like all the wide receivers, Cam Coleman, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams. Did you know that guy was 17 most of this year? Just like loads and loads of freshmen. KJ Bolden at Georgia.
Nate Frazier.
Nate Frazier. I feel like I'm missing another quarterback.
Stewart.
DJ Lagway. I mean, it was all over the place. Dylan Stewart. That's who I was thinking about because you were talking about South Carolina getting like most improved South Carolina. Bro, Dylan Stewart walked into college day one and was like, I'm finna tear this sport up.
And this was something that Kirby Smart mentioned before the season of, we're having to play younger players because of the attrition to rosters because of the transfer portal. I think that's what you're really seeing is, yes, freshmen are impacting rosters, but they're kind of forced to impact these rosters.
And some of these freshmen are your highest paid players on your roster. You kind of got to play them. My most improved in season was Oregon. Oregon had really, really bad, ugly like wins early on in the season, right? Struggled with Idaho at home. They only beat Idaho by like 15 points. It's the undefeated number one team, unquestioned number one team at the end of the year. And they're struggling with Idaho. They beat Boise by 1 point. I think they struggled the week after that as well. So like they really like stumbled out of the blocks, and now they seem to be one of the hottest and most improved teams year in or week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the few teams where I was like, oh, once they figured it out, they really, really did figure it out. I know they had a trip up. I think it was kind of towards the back end of the
Forgot Ryan Wingo in that freshman list as well.
Yeah, so I mean, but Oregon's definitely the team where it's like once they went up, they stayed up.
Well, and when they were struggling at the beginning of the year, we talked about how when you bring in these transfers, it takes time for them to acclimate to one another and really get things going. And like you mentioned, it seemed like once the Ohio State game happened, it was coasting from there. These
are kind of tied in together. Best coaching glow up. Who started the season in some knee deep in some doggy dookie, and by the end of the year came out shining?
I chose Shane Beamer.
Feet for free.
You couldn't have asked for a better season from South Carolina.
Didn't even break a foot this year.
And look, I'll give Shane credit because he had the nerve, the absolute nerve, to look everybody in the eye at SEC Media Days and say, I think we're a college football playoff team.
That's the standard.
That's the standard at this university. We all balked at it, like, come on, Shane, what are we doing? Like, you need to be focused on making sure that you keep your job, that you're getting this program built into a direction to where you can maybe get to that point. And while they didn't make the playoff, they got into the conversation and rather quickly because of what they did in the second half of the season. Once they kind of got their growing pains out of the way, everybody was pitching out. South Carolina deserves to be in the playoffs. South Carolina is one of the better teams in college football right now. Nobody wants to play South Carolina. Like, he turned that statement into somewhat of a true statement.
I'm going with Billy Napier for the same exact reason. I think towards the end of the year, everybody looked at Florida like, ooh, I wouldn't want to play Florida right about now with DJ Lagway and the way their offense is playing.
Shout
and
out Ole Miss.
The defense is scrapping together. Shout out to Ole Miss. So, yeah, I think Billy had a tremendous turnaround this year. I mean, we were ready to throw him in the grave. I think we already started digging it and putting him in it, throwing dirt on him.
I mean, he looked cooked after that Texas A&M game.
After that Miami game and Texas A&M.
Yeah, Texas A&M came after Miami, so I stayed in the SEC. I don't think this coach necessarily started out in a rough place. It was kind of just it's going to be what it'll be. But Clark Lee really, really did something special at Vanderbilt this year. I mean, there was a point where we were third through the season, and Vanderbilt was leading the SEC. I mean, that's how that is an accomplishment.
One more time.
We got a third of the way through the SEC for the season, and Vanderbilt was the number one team in the SEC. It was that crazy for Vanderbilt. I mean, you came out, beat a Virginia Tech team that people said might make the playoff this year, beat them in overtime, had a tough loss to Georgia State, gave a Missouri team that was a top 10 at the time everything they wanted to handle.
They had Diego Pavia out here talking about winning national titles.
Exactly, man.
After
Exciting.
that Bama win, we setting title expectations.
Here's
now,
the most impressive
after having lost to Georgia State 2 weeks prior.
This is how you know they had a great season. You just talked about, you mentioned that they lost to Georgia State. Nobody's mentioned it since.
Nope.
They lost to Georgia State.
Handled, by the way.
Yeah. That
Who,
game,
I don't think Georgia State had a Sun Belt win all year. They beat Kennesaw.
Georgia State scored on a last-second touchdown to win.
Yeah.
lost to Georgia.
They were down 17 points in that
They were down
football game.
17, took the lead, and then Georgia State scored a last-second touchdown.
Correct.
Again, though, lost to Georgia
That's like
State,
saying
and that's
Bama
not the
handled
talking point of
I
their
know,
season.
but they were down 17 to Georgia State.
That's true.
That's being handled by a mid-major who didn't win a conference game. One conference game. Sorry, Dale. I don't mean to take shots. This is a bad year one for Dale,
Sure.
but we knew it was going to be 128th in Division I football and returning talent. So we knew. Better year two coming in for Dale McGee in the thirds. Biggest disappointment. Who is it?
I had a toss-up between two teams in the same conference just because I think everybody was hammering them home. It was so much to the point of, it's these two teams and everybody else in this conference, and neither one of these teams.
Oh, not my Utes.
Utah and
Not my
Oklahoma State.
Utes.
Oklahoma State was just riding like, oh, they got Ollie Gordon. They could probably make something happen in that conference. And then Utah it's Cam Rising and his Forrest Gump knee braces probably going to take him to a conference championship and a playoff spot.
By the way, we had a caveat here. Florida State was not allowed to be your answer.
Yeah.
We obviously know they were a massive disappointment. They sucked.
But yeah, those two teams, you seem like the top two picks to win your conference. And again, neither one of you really even came close to doing so.
I wanted to put Ohio State as my most disappointing team because, I mean, it was perhaps the most expensive roster ever. Everyone talked about how this is the best college football roster we've ever seen. And you lost 2 regular season games, one to a 6-6 rival at your home school. But the reality of it is they could still win the Natty. So I don't think I can in good faith put them on there. I put LSU on this list for the fact that we really thought that, hey, the defense is going to get a lot better this year. Garrett Nussmeier is a good quarterback. They've got 2 bookends at offensive tackle right here. LSU should be at the very least a playoff contender. Might not go undefeated, might have some flaws, but they came out the gate stumbling against a USC team that ended up being very bad. Flirted with South Carolina, flirted with UCLA earlier in the season, got smoked by Alabama, had to beat Vanderbilt in the late fourth quarter game. Like, just was not a very good season for LSU, and especially for the expectations we had from them. Very disappointing.
I got Missouri on the list.
Yeah.
Missouri had to win, 2 games, or play close in 2 games,
Yeah.
and then handle the rest that they were favored by 14-plus points in.
Yeah.
And did they score 40 points all year against the Power 4 opponent?
I'll check.
Did they score 40 points all year?
Good question.
This was supposed to be one of those offenses. They returned everybody. They returned Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, Brady Cook. And I know quarterback got banged up at times this year, but they were bad even with him early on in the year. They struggled offensively. I thought what they did this year was nothing short of a disappointment for what their expectations were going into the year. We went into the year thinking Missouri had the schedule to be a college football playoff team. A lot of people picked them to be in that 8, 9, 10, 11 range, and they come out and they're playing in bowl-bound T-shirt area.
They did not. The closest they came was 39 points against Mississippi State.
Again, supposed to be an offense that everybody thought was going to be really, really good this year, myself included, and they, pooped the bed. I put Ole Miss on this list as well.
Yeah.
But I think Ole Miss did exactly what we thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
If we really were honest with ourselves. We knew Auburn, or we knew Lane Kiffin was going to Lane Kiffin at some point if we were really, really truthful with ourselves. Any other disappointments? UCF?
Yeah. I was disappointed
Come
in that
on.
one.
I was too.
USC disappointed me, especially after that LSU game where we came out and we're like, wait,
You have a defense?
USC has a physical defense. Miller Moss seems to be looking like a good quarterback, and it just turned out that so many other things went wrong with USC that year. So
And you know where it started, right? You know where it started? The downhill trajectory of the USC Trojans
that
this year?
damn Michigan game.
No, sitting Bear Alexander. Can't be doing that. Biggest surprise team. Who you got?
I went with the troops. If
Support them.
If you
Support them, baby.
gotta support the troops. If you just said that at the start of this year, I don't know, what was it, week 13, week 14,
Yeah.
if Army was one Notre Dame victory away, they were a playoff team. Undefeated Army, I would have said absolutely. That's insane.
Crazy work.
Conference champions, probably going to beat the shit out of Navy on Saturday. Ooh.
That's an ideal screen to have Frozen on right there.
It never happens at a good time.
Yeah,
You
your
should've-
boy,
yeah,
your
dude,
boy
I
looking
mean-
like a derp.
Dude, I was white meating the thighs yesterday. in between shows, so it's all right.
My biggest surprise team's obvious.
Who you got?
Arizona State.
Yeah.
Arizona State. I did not expect myself to be falling in love with the Tempe Titans. I just didn't. I didn't think it was going to happen to me this year, and here I am, a bona fide, verified Sun Devil fan. I'm a lunatic. I'm crazy for some Sun Devil Kenny Dillingham football.
That is a good pick.
Give it to
Yeah, I mean, like, you can take as many victory laps as you want on that one because you were hammering that, like, I think before games had even been played. So, like, you absolutely get to take all the credit there.
Nah, man, it was that scrappy win over the shitty Mississippi State Bulldogs that bought me in.
Ah, that's
Yep,
right. That's
yep.
right.
Come from behind.
Mm-hmm.
No. They
handled
were
it.
out. They were out early, and then Mississippi State did the Mississippi State thing where they're down 31 points, still running no huddle, and they scrapped within 2 scores, and then Scatterbo stepped on their neck.
I chose 2 playoff teams. I was between SMU and Indiana. And I could see like why maybe they're not exactly that big of a surprise because if you looked at the schedule in the preseason, like SMU, you didn't have to play Miami or Clemson this year, so that was a big win for you. And then also Indiana, you didn't have to play anybody until you had to go play Ohio State, and then you found out what it's about, and that result ended up indicating what you truly are. But still in the playoff, I mean, 2 teams that, especially Indiana, that was not a team being in the conversation at all of like potential Big Ten sleeper teams that could get into the college football playoff. Indiana was not one of those teams being floated around.
All right, on to our best game. Guys, I had 3 options here.
I have 4, and I can't
Uno.
pick from one.
Who is it?
Ohio State, Oregon.
It's a good call.
It's a great game. I mean, that's one of those games
We
where
deserved overtime, though, even though we couldn't have gotten it.
you weren't
We
going
couldn't
to
have gotten it.
You
It
weren't
did
gonna
need
get it.
overtime,
It did
though.
need overtime.
Dan Lanning took overtime away for you because he went for 2. Shout out to Dan
That's
Lanning.
psycho.
I've got 2 Georgia games on here. Georgia versus Georgia Tech.
A lot of good
Georgia
ones.
versus Texas. Those are good football games.
You could even say
Georgia
Georgia,
versus
Alabama.
Texas, SEC championship, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was like,
Which people are going to balk at that one because they thought it was ugly offense. They didn't watch the tape.
no, that was just,
They didn't watch the tape. That was beautiful defense is what that was.
it was.
That wasn't Iowa State.
No, there's a difference.
Yeah. When you got – if I told you there were 20 NFL football players on the defenses of those 2 teams, would you say yes or no?
I would not.
I would not
hesitate
balk
at
at
all
that
to
at
agree
all.
with that.
I'd say that's it. I'd say more.
Yeah. That's basically all 22 starters and a couple of them getting cut from their team.
Yeah.
I think that's how it's going to work for both of those. All right. Do you want to do What If Wednesday?
Let's do it.
We shall do what if Wednesday.
Let's be quick. What if Bill Belichick's is an absolute disaster at UNC?
Then North Carolina will be right where they started after the Mac. Like, take a screenshot of where North Carolina is right now after the Mac Brown era. That's where you'll be if Bill Belichick's a disaster.
I got a what if with actual punishments here. If this happens, our show will agree to do something. Okay? If Boise State goes on to win a national title, and this is going to sound like, oh, Brooks, that's not that difficult, but you have no idea how ugly I will look. If Boise State wins a national title, I will go 6 months attempting to grow a beard.
6 months?
6 months. I will not shave my face for 6 months.
No trim either. Just
So
None.
whole off season,
Yep.
Brooks is riding.
From January 20th until July 20th, I will attempt to grow facial hair.
You know, I'll join you on this. If Boise State wins a national title, I'll shave my head.
What do you got, Jay
Got a
Will?
lot at stake here. Oh,
I'm
shit.
not shaving my face for 6 months. He's going to shave his entire head. What are you going to do if the Ashton Genty-led Broncos go on an absolute steamboat roll to a national title? What are you going to do?
I'll tell you what. Ashton Genty, if he puts on a playoff national title caliber performance over the next 3 games, entire program on the line, you want to talk about putting your name in the history books for forever, I'll get a tattoo of Chat's choosing.
A tattoo of Chat's choosing.
But I get to choose where I put it on my body.
Okay.
But
But they
they-
get to choose the design.
Whatever they want it to be.
I like this. I like this. What if it's a picture of Brian Harsin?
Maybe I don't want to do this anymore.
There's honestly, there are way worse things you could get tattooed on your body. But
For sure.
and no, Chad will not be shaving the stash. If
Oh, no. Just
That's
straight chrome dome
You wouldn't go
with the
full
stash.
cue ball?
no, dude.
I can't express to you how ugly I will look attempting to grow facial hair. It will look worse than me being bald.
I would say I hope it happens, but I don't really.
I
want
don't
a
wish
tattoo.
it, dude.
do.
I don't
We
really
are
want
in
a
this
tattoo.
together, boys. We are preying on the Boise State downfall right now.
All right, before we go into, do y'all have any more what ifs?
Oh, that was the only what if we asked so far.
All right. Well, do y'all have some?
Do you want to skip what if Wednesday? Or?
No, we have Super Chubs to get to.
Go ahead and hit
we
the Super
also
Chubs.
still have the Diddyisms to get to.
I just have one what if that I want to get. That I want to
Please
lay out.
get this what if off.
Okay, what if we get the greatest Heisman race ever next season?
Between
I mean, you start listing names, you can find a bunch of them right now. You Nico Iamaleava, that's a name. DJ
You
Lagway,
got it.
Arch Manning. I mean, that's just the top of the crop right there. I mean, Caleb Downs as a defensive player that you want to list off on this one. There's some really good quarterbacks that are going to be playing college football next year. I think that it could be a lot, and I hope
John Mateer at Oklahoma.
John Mateer in the SEC, you better watch out. I'm just saying. Fernando Mendoza has not chosen his destination yet.
he's coming.
You should be fearful that
He's
he
coming
chooses
for
your
you,
rival
boys.
school right now.
Oh, man. Chuck Norris checks under his bed at night for Francisco Mendoza.
Didn't even say his name. Right.
Whatever.
The disrespect. Some are saying he could turn into an NFL prospect.
Yeah. Pete Thamel, quote, straight copy and paste from the agent of Mendoza.
I guess everybody heard me fire off my Fernando Mendoza take and were like, you know what? Let me
What
get
did
a
I
piece
call
of
him?
this.
Francisco?
Yeah,
Francisco.
Francisco.
My bad, Fernando.
That's
The
fancy.
most doesn't look like a Fernando ever.
No. Does anyone look like a Fernando though?
Fernando Mendoza does not. Fernando Mendoza looks like his name should be Tyler.
But like who does look like Fernando that is named Fernando?
The Fernando I went to college with, who married my wife's teammate, he looks like a Fernando.
Shout out to Fernando. What if Oregon wins the whole thing this year? Is this the greatest college football team ever?
Oregon fans on Twitter are saying already verbatim, if they win this national title, greatest college football team ever to exist.
No. Sorry. No.
I don't know if you'll ever top 2019 LSU for me. I don't think anybody can beat that team on a neutral field.
Oregon, you're really, really good, and if you win a national title, you'll be a really, really good football team in history. But no, you are not that caliber of exciting, that caliber of domination.
The way I shut this down is no one calls 2018 Clemson the greatest team ever. And the entire argument for Oregon being the greatest ever is because it would be a 16-0 run against, way like much harder teams. You'd have to beat either Ohio State or Tennessee, and then obviously the bracket goes on and on. Like those would be impressive wins to get there, but just because you're 16-0 doesn't mean you're the greatest ever. Like LSU is the greatest college football team.
All right, let's hit these super chubs before we hit the Diddyisms and the local hour. JD, the guitarist, says, think there's anything in Manny's contract that keeps him from getting run too much, risking injury. Why didn't they play him, saving him for the playoff? In my opinion, okay, this is my opinion. I don't think Quinn's playing as bad as people think he is when you look at the film. But B, I think there's a real hesitancy to pull him and a real loyalty to Quinn Ewers. That's what I see in the Texas football program. I think Sark has a soft spot for Quinn Ewers. Is that fair?
I wouldn't say it's unfair.
That's the way I feel.
I think it's also like Quinn Ewers has been your guy. You're going on year 3 of him being your guy. You can't sweep the rug from underneath him. And like we said, Texas's offensive issues were not because of what Quinn Ewers was doing on offense. It's not like he was throwing picks. It's not like, now he did have some interceptions, but it's also not like, and I understand the argument that Arch Manning brings a different dynamic to this game that could elevate the offense, but you got to go with the guy you trust.
I kind of lean the other way.
Yeah.
I lean the other way. If Quinn wants to another year of college football, you say, that's great. You cannot do that here. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about
And I
that.
get that, and I think that's fine, but I also don't
You
think
talking about next year?
Oh, is that not what we're talking about?
No, we're
No.
talking about why you didn't play him more than the last
Oh,
game.
I thought you were talking about next year.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Quinn Ewers is your
if
guy.
Quinn Ewers comes into your office and says, I want to play another
'Cause
year of
I
college
heard people
football, you
talking
say,
about
cool,
that.
you go play somewhere else. No.
Okay.
Get
We're
out
on the
here,
same
old
page
head.
then.
Yeah. Nick Carwell says, did 2024 South Carolina become 07 UGA? I'm going to say no. I'm going to not go that far. Wasn't that the Notre Dame year? Alabama beat the shit out of Notre Dame?
No, that's 2012.
Yeah.
You're thinking of 07 where Georgia lost to Tennessee and one other team early on, and then like went on this incredible run towards the back end, beat the shit out of Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl, and everyone was like, honestly, this team could have won the national title.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. I don't think South Carolina was a national title team. I think South Carolina was a top 15 team that tried to make an argument of being in the 12-team playoff. While they had an argument no one really picked South Carolina to win it all.
All right. We got a whole nother hour coming up right now. Are we ready for ditties?
Let me get it ready.
All right.
You go ahead and close this out.
All right, that was our national hour. We got a local hour coming up. We're going to hit you with an intro and then probably with this week's ditties. And boy.
No. It's going to be Diddy first.
Oh.
Because just how we have to do it, all right? Just trust the process, all right? You might be thinking.
Hit me in the face with ditties and shut up.
Well, there's another one.
Let's shut up and let's grind. If you come to at the end of this video, watch the end of it and go, I sure did have a good time. We got a long one. Give them a nice stick in the hole. We got to flash something in front of them so we can slip something behind them. Okay. Bring the mobile quarterback in there, spread his legs. I wonder if it looks as impressive from the tight as it did from the wide. That's what it looks like to me. So I don't know who's busting right now. And he do one of those, and then he go like that, and then you see the butt perk up like that. Okay? Come down here. Play this man meat. Big, physical, lots of dudes. Lots of man meat in that middle. My thing is looking at dudes on tape going, all 5 guys are coming. Now, pretty hard, Jonathan, and that ball just start bouncing weird. And when that ball starts bouncing weird, start taking the other guy. Our 5 guys in the box are better than your 5 guys in the box. Look how big and thick that kid is.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grab some tape.
I get a good belly laugh out of those every time. The hit you in the face to sneak something in from behind is great.
Yeah, wild.
Crazy
insane.
work. Oh man, play it again. Oh. Let's shut up and let's grind. If you come to at the end of this video, watch the end of it and go, I sure did have a good time. We got a long one. Give them a nice stick in the hole. We got to flash something in front of them so we can slip something behind them. Okay. Bring the mobile quarterback in there, spread his legs. I wonder if it looks as impressive from the tight as it did from the wide. That's what it looks like to me. So I don't know who's busting right now. And he do one of those, and then he go like that, and then you see the butt perk up like that. Okay? Come down here. Play this man meat. Big, physical, lots of dudes. Lots of man meat in that middle. My thing is looking at dudes on tape going, all 5 guys are coming. Now, pretty hard, Jonathan, and that ball just start bouncing weird. And when that ball starts bouncing weird, start taking the other guy. Our 5 guys in the box are better than your 5 guys in the box. Look how big and thick that kid is. The best way to watch those is to not watch them at all. Take your eyes off the screen and just listen.
Yeah, our podcast listeners.
Yeah.
You're probably having quite a time.
They're enjoying those. Well, the stance, by the way. Grade the stance.
Very good stance.
Not bad, right?
Stance.
Yeah. But yeah, once you see that that butt perk up, watch out.
Yeah.
I just like looking at dudes. All right, we got a local out for you guys. It is indeed a loaded one. We've got schedule talk, more portal names to pay attention to, Gunner Stockton film review. We took a look at that from the second half today on the channel. If you haven't watched that, be sure to do so after tonight's broadcast. We're going to rank the matchups of the potential matchups of the college football playoff. Bulldogs back in the all-SEC team rankings, or I should say Bulldogs in the all-SEC team. We'll give you those. And Jalen Walker wins the Butkus Award. That's where we're going to start tonight's local hour. But first and foremost, I want to give a quick shout out again to our friends over at Better. If you're looking for a new place this season to place college football props, Better is the place to be. Head over there, use promo code Brooks. You get a 100% deposit match up to $200. Again, that's a 100% deposit match using promo code Brooks up to $200. Head over there to Better. Support those who are supporting this network. I know we said we'd start with the Butkus Award news, guys, but I want to look at this schedule and just get your general take on this. So start the season. Marshall, Austin Peay, then at Tennessee September 13th, a bye week September 20th before you host Alabama, then Kentucky, then go on the road to Auburn, Ole Miss at home, and then another bye week. You head down to Jacksonville for the final time for the next 2 years between Georgia and Florida, at Mississippi State November 8th, and then Texas comes to town November 15th, Charlotte November 22nd, and then Georgia Tech in the Mercedes-Benz to close the season 11/29. So hopefully playing back-to-back weeks in Mercedes-Benz Stadium right there with Georgia Tech, and then the SEC Championship the next weekend. My first and really only note when you run it down and look at it like that is that Georgia, yes, has a really tough slate again next year, but I think the timing of all of these big-time football games are relatively scattered, right? There's three or four, depending on how you feel about Ole Miss next year. At Tennessee being September 20th. And then, yeah, they are back-to-back games, but there's a week of a bye in between Alabama, and then you don't play Texas until November 15th. I think the way these fell on the schedule is really ideal for Georgia.
For everything that you went through in 2024, where it was like, we're going to go an entire month and not playing Sanford and all those types of things, and, you know, of course, Bama, Ole Miss, Texas, all on the road. This is a much, much more manageable schedule for you, like you said. Like, you don't play any – there's no back-to-back road games on this schedule for you. There's only 3 true road games on the schedule. You get to play Georgia Tech in the Benz, and we know that that's probably – it's going to be treated as a home game for
70-30.
Yeah, that's going to be, at the very worst, a 50-50 matchup for you.
You think that sells out?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't think so either.
No.
Well, I think the cool thing
Unless
about
for some reason Tech's like ranked or some shit.
maybe. I think the cool thing about this schedule is, you know, Georgia fans take a lot of offense to how when people start talking and ranking college football environments, Sanford Stadium can often be an afterthought in those conversations, and they're not held to the same standard as maybe an LSU or even like a Penn State of those likes. This next season, you have the opportunity to where nobody can think of you otherwise. If Alabama walks into your stadium and Ole Miss walks into your stadium and Texas walks into your stadium and you go 3-0 against those teams, and that crowd plays a role in all of those, people will think differently of Sanford Stadium because it all happened in one season. And I'll also say this, you better not get fatigued next year. You better show up every single time. There's no down week. You get a home slate like this, you got 3 true road games, you better show up for every single freaking
Start
one of them.
saving up. Kids get no Christmas this year because Georgia's got an onslaught of home games next year.
I'm here with
You got to
that.
save up money, dude. Ticket price is going to be through the roof.
Thought Santa brought the present.
Nah, them kids.
Yo. But no, Jay Will's right. Like, you get Marshall, Austin Peay to start off, and then it's go. Like, all the games matter from that point. I know you get Charlotte on the 22nd, I believe, after the Mississippi State or Texas game, one of those two. But other than that, like, it's a very, very meaty schedule for you, but it's set up in a way where it's not like, oh, that's a run where it's going to be very tough. Like,
The only bad luck you got is Texas has a bye week before you.
Yeah.
That's really it.
But I
Everything
think
else
that's
is
also because Texas didn't
ideal.
get a bye week before playing Oklahoma.
Yeah,
So,
their slate before their bye is pretty brutal.
And
They
they have
got
to
at Florida, Oklahoma, and then a bye after that or something like that.
And then on top of that, they go from Georgia to Texas A&M. They got to play
talk to
Texas
me.
A&M right after Georgia.
yeah, so I mean, like,
They're going to get their comeuppance based off just scheduling, not necessarily the teams and the opponents.
I know that obviously the 12 teams that you were going to play were already known heading into this, but the way this schedule's kind of set up, it's almost like Greg Sankey heard Kirby Smart on the SEC Championship Day and was like, all right, you know what? Let's give him something to kind of chew on, because this 2024 schedule did turn out to be a grinder.
Roquan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Jalen Walker.
It's good. It's a good trio.
That is a trio of Butkus Award winners, as Jalen Walker was awarded today the award for the nation's best linebacker. Thoughts on the award being given to Jalen today? Oh, by the way, I think this is the point you were about to make, isn't it? Go ahead. I'll let you take it.
I was just like, thank God the Butkus Award winner, the nation's most outstanding linebacker, was fortunate enough to make second team All-SEC this year.
Yeah.
What the hell are we doing?
I mean, I think what this is half the voters thinking Jalen Walker's a defensive lineman and half the voters thinking he's an inside linebacker.
That's probably very true.
I think that's what happened. Honestly, I don't even know who votes on all SEC teams.
I don't either. I don't know if it's coaches.
I know
or
who
if
votes
it's
on
media.
preseason. It's the media.
Mhm.
I didn't get an email from Chuck Dunlap in the SEC office to vote on these.
I think it.
Not saying that that's the requirement, but I just don't. I didn't see anything that says this is media voted. So perhaps it's coaches led. I have no idea. The Butkus Award is definitely media.
Yeah, but I mean, and honestly, like, he deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what he's done this year is he's been the most dynamic player on Georgia's defense, and we all know that the prestige that comes with being on a Georgia defensive team. Now, I don't think he's the most flawless Butkus Award winner you've had. I don't think that like Roquan Smith in 2017. I think is still the epitome of like the most dominant linebacker you're going to see. But Jalen Walker is an animal this year, and it showed in your most important games against Texas on the road. He stepped up in a massive way.
And I think that was the biggest player in this is anytime Georgia had a massive matchup, Jalen Walker showed up. I mean, it started with Clemson, and then it went down to the Texas game. Every single week that Georgia needed their defense to make plays, Jalen Walker played a massive role in that happening.
I want to play two games with you guys. I want to play trio of inside linebackers. Which ones are you taking? And then I'm going to go Shoe versus another coach and see which one you're taking.
All right.
All right, these three linebackers from Georgia, Roquan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Jalen Walker, or these three linebackers from Notre Dame, J.O.K., who got drafted the first round by the Cleveland Browns, Jalen Smith, Monte Te'o, or Reuben Foster, C.J. Mosley, Rolando McClain.
Immediately, I'm getting Notre Dame off the list.
Yeah.
As great as Manti Te'o was, I don't think that the other two are going to – like, they're good, but I'll still go Georgia there. Like I said, I think Roquan Smith is the epitome of what you thought a college linebacker should have looked like.
I don't know, man. Reuben Foster was pretty damn good in college.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah?
The Roquan would be the only reason I would go with Georgia's because, like, the season that guy had and how it's played out, too, for him of being, like, the best linebacker in the NFL, too. It's hard to go against that group, but those Alabama linebackers were so good, too.
So you know they started giving out the Butkus Award in the NFL, too?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's won it the last 2 years?
It's Roquan.
It's Roquan. So
I
I
believe
think I would lean more towards Georgia. And by the way, I think Georgia's group of linebackers is more conducive for every era of football. I think you've got a guy that can do just about everything, whereas like I look at the list from Alabama, and I don't know if C.J. Mosley and Rolando McClain are as good of football players as they were in the early aughts and early 10s as they would be now.
Georgia's definitely the more modern role.
Correct.
Mold,
I mean,
should
all
say.
these happened within the last 8 seasons of college football. So.
And I think you could take those three guys, though. I think Roquan, Nakobe, and Jalen can play in every era of football. I don't think all those other. I don't think Rolando McClain at 255 pounds is going to be playing Mike linebacker right now in the SEC.
No, he's too slow.
Yeah.
We're going 5 wide, and we're torching his ass every single time.
Just cooking.
5 wide, no huddle until this man passes out on the sideline.
All right, so y'all sided with Georgia there. Now, this is a totally different debate, and it's a little bit more difficult because it's apples to oranges. But Glenn Schumann, obviously a well-renowned recruiter and developer at the inside linebacker position. His track record speaks for itself.
For sure.
If I had to take his best 5 linebackers, these would be the 5 that I take. Roquan Smith, Monty Rice, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Jalen Walker.
Okay.
We agree?
Yep.
Any debates? Would you
No.
trade Channing Tindall for one of those guys? Probably not.
No, Channing Tindall was kind of your gadget.
So
back
those are the 5. All right, those are the 5 linebackers that we're taking from Shue's run. Now, these are the 5 wide receivers that I'm going to take now from Brian Hartline's run at Ohio State. So we got Roquan, Monty, Nakobe, Quay, Jalen. Now, these 5 wide receivers all went over 1,200 yards in a singular season. Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, Emeka Ibuka, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. Which run is more dominant?
The Ohio State run is more dominant.
Yeah.
Like that, without a doubt. I mean, now the caveat.
The Georgia run's got 3 Butkus Award winners. There are not 3 Biletnikoff Award winners in that list I just read off from Ohio State, are there?
No, but the as a whole, 5 guys that go over 1,200 receiving yards.
Insane.
That's insane.
Some of which played together.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and Monty Rice was a great linebacker. Quay Walker was a first-round pick. Like, those aren't guys that I think dominated Quay Walker was the second best linebacker on that defensive unit. Now, I understand that Kobe Dean was insane. He was great. But for me, like, that to have 5 wide receivers, 5 separate guys that go over 1,200 receiving yards is insane. I would go Ohio State there.
And that's in like a 4-year run for those guys.
It is kind of interesting because, like, I think that Georgia linebackers are starting to play better in the NFL than the Ohio State wide receivers are. Like, Jackson Smith and Jigba has been good for Seattle.
Wilson's been the best out of that group.
Yes. And he's been on a touch-and-go team.
Correct.
And, like, Chris Olave, same thing. He's been on a touch-and-go team with the Saints. But none of those guys have really gone into the league and, like, just taken over like they have at Ohio State. But Roquan Smith has dominated the NFL. Quay Walker is playing really well for the Green Bay Packers. And Nakobe Dean is flashing for Philadelphia right now. There is a debate there, in my opinion.
Oh, there's certainly a debate there.
No, I'm not saying that you weren't, but I get why it's easy to jump on the wide receiver list because that's way more exciting and notable to watch.
The production's far more quantifiable.
Yeah,
correct.
Like, you can feel the impact of winning football games with wide receivers with the numbers that they put up. A linebacker having 6.5 sacks and 10 tackles for loss and 50 tackles on a season, it's hard to quantify, like, how much of an impact.
Is there another position group in college football that rivals this apart from maybe Alabama's receiver core for a little bit? These 2 runs of talent acquisition at one premier position. Maybe what Ohio State did at quarterback several years ago.
I would go the Oklahoma run you had at quarterback, where you went from Baker Mayfield to Kyler Murray to Jalen Hurts was pretty insane.
To Caleb Williams.
Ohio State had a pretty sick run.
To Spencer Rattler,
then Caleb. I mean, that's
not bad.
That's a
damn good run.
Ohio State had a pretty sick run of edge rushers.
They did.
Yeah.
The Bosa twins.
They died out real quick.
Yeah, it did. But there for a while.
Real quick.
I mean, they were pumping it out.
Yeah, they went.
They're not twins, they're brothers.
They went Chase Young, they went oldest Bosa, Chase Young, youngest Bosa.
Yeah,
right?
Joey and Nick.
Yeah, that's a pretty good run right there. Chase Young would have broke the sack record had it not been for his girlfriend taking free plane rides out to USC or the Rose Bowl.
About that.
Crazy.
Holy cow.
Pre-NIL, too.
That should have been our first big FU to the NCAA.
Is that like the last, like, oh, this doesn't matter in NIL?
No. The last one for me was Baylor. When Baylor and their coaching staff got hit with less of a show cause order for all of that sexual assault covering up that they did. When they got like 2 years worth of a show cause order, when Hugh Freeze's staff got 8 years, I was like, oh, the NCAA's dying. No one cares. These guys have no power anymore.
Right.
And then COVID hit, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Really, it was COVID. Once players started to band together and realize they had power, it was over with.
Yeah.
So, all right. All SEC team was released today. I didn't know that. I don't know how coaches are out here grading long snappers, but Georgia has first team All SEC long snapper that showed up this past offseason.
Bo Gardner.
That boy Bo.
Hell
Some
yeah.
respect on the
That
name.
boy Bo. Don't think he made a tackle all year, but he must have been throwing seeds.
Not a single bad snap so far.
Do you like grade that off like time?
I
Or
think
do you
that's
grade that off
gotta
location?
Yeah,
It's
gotta
got to
be
be
something like
time.
Time and location.
Time to touch.
Yeah. I was a .67 guy.
That's pretty good.
I assume that's good.
Anything sub 7 is SEC and NFL standard.
I bet Bo Gardner's sub 7 too.
I bet Bo Gardner's consistent .65. Real nerdy football
Which
talk
is
right now.
so, like, people don't understand how underrated that. Like, a quarter of a second
You're throwing beans.
in a punt.
Yeah.
Not only that, like in a punt, like that's the difference between a block punt and a 75-yard punt.
I can still do it. I hop down every once in a while, give a good long snap, just to knock
make sure
knock
it's
the cobwebs
still
off.
got it.
Probably,
Yeah, still got it.
we probably do it in studio.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I was looking at it. We got some run. I think the problem would be accuracy and getting
There's
it
a lot
in
of
frame.
expensive stuff in here too.
You think?
Well, if J-Will could stand his back on the wall, And you probably go down, what?
You know, these are basically like the personal protectors that you have to snap through nowadays. This little alley we got. You know what? Not a bad idea.
Let's do it.
Let's not.
Right.
But yeah, I do indeed have a backwards chooch. A chooch between the legs, if you will.
I would not say that.
No.
Oh, man, we're having a show tonight. Jalen Walker, not a first-team member.
Ridiculous.
Tate Ratledge is a first-team member.
Shout out Tate Ratledge. I think that's well deserved.
Miss half the season, make all SEC. Don't know how, but we're not asking questions. We're putting it on the plaque, baby.
Respect, but I'd love to understand the thought process for this, where the Butkus Award winner is second-team All-SEC and a guy who, I think we can all agree.
Who were the first-team linebackers?
SEC coaches don't know ball. It was my man Stutzman.
Okay.
Stutzman,
It
Jod
was my
Campbell,
man Whit Weeks
and Jod Campbell.
and Jod Campbell.
Okay.
Solid
So Anthony
choice.
Hill wasn't even first team. Craziness.
Okay.
Craziness.
Whit Weeks, good football player. Whit Weeks is not Jalen Walker or Anthony Hill.
Jod Campbell is though.
Jihad, I'm cool with the other two. Danny
Jihad
Stutzman
Campbell.
is a dude. Jihad Campbell is a dude. Whit Weeks, good football player.
If you look up in 18 months and Jihad Campbell's the best linebacker in NFL football, would you be surprised?
No.
I wouldn't. That dude's an animal. 6'3", 240. I bet he runs 4.58 at the combine. What are you gonna bet?
Wouldn't surprise me. I go 4.61.
Hater. Sniffing on that haterade over there. Do you sniff haterade? Second team, Jared Wilson, Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, Malachi Starks, Dylan Fairchild.
That's a good, solid list.
Is there a single defensive player on the first team?
No.
Crazy.
Yeah. It was that letdown against Georgia Tech. Third team, Trevor Etienne, Chaz Chambliss, Dalen Everett, Dan Jackson.
Chaz and Dan.
West Hall
Thank you.
to an all-SEC team.
North Hall.
North Hall. Is there an East Hall?
Yes.
Is there a South Hall?
That's a middle school. Used to be the high school.
Oh.
Now it's Johnson.
Look at you and your Hall County knowledge.
Going on to
Repping the
halls.
J, baby.
Hell yeah. Is that Jackson County? Repping the J.
Johnson.
Oh, my bad.
Jackson
idiot.
County. That's Jaxco.
Mm,
You guys got the elongated version.
repping it. Any other thoughts? Who got snubbed
I mean, like,
other than Jalen?
you know how I feel about getting snubbed. I think Dalen was Dalen ever on this
The
list?
second team.
Okay, good.
Third team.
Kristen Miller should have been on this list. too.
Christian
Yeah.
Miller should have been on
Definitely
this
should have been
list.
on this list.
That's a good call.
Was there a
right there.
punter?
No, he did make. I think Thorson made second team
Okay.
or third team. One of
Good.
the he made a team. But Woodring made it twice. Woodring made it as a kickoff specialist and a kicker.
Good, dude. He is.
I don't know how
you know
he
what?
made the kickoff specialist though. To be
I wanna
honest
say
with you.
something.
He allowed return yardage this year.
Yeah, he did. But you know what? I remember you asked. I think you asked this question of, would you rather your kicker kick it out of the end zone, or are you guys doing it by design to where you kick it a little shorter? And he said, well, Peyton just can't kick it consistently out of the end zone. I think from that point on, that dude was kicking it into the back of the end zone very
Yeah.
consistently.
Yeah.
Took some disrespect and
I'll show you,
added it to
Kirby.
his
Put
game.
some spec on Woodring's name.
That's right.
I got a player A versus player B conversation I want to have.
Go ahead.
You ready? These are I don't want to tell you. Well, you're going to know based off the stats. These are quarterbacks. Quarterback A threw for 2,665 yards, had 25 touchdowns to 9 interceptions on 66% completion percentage.
How many rushing?
Don't know. Player B, they're relatively equivalent though.
Okay.
Neither one of
Okay.
these guys
Okay,
are
so it
running
wasn't like we
quarterbacks.
had a-
No, this
Gotcha.
is not Lenore Sellers. Player B, 3,485 yards passing, 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions on 64.5% completion. Which one of those quarterbacks had a better year?
Player B.
Player B, I would
I would
say.
think so too. Far more attempts as well. Much more relied upon by his football team to go out and win football games. Player A's second team All SEC.
I'm
Player A
guessing
is Quinn Ewers.
I'm guessing player B's Carson.
Player
Yeah,
B is
I
Carson
do.
Beck. Player B, Carson Beck threw for 800 more yards than Quinn Ewers. And I know Quinn got hurt. Quinn missed a couple of games. But player B walked down player A and beat him twice.
And Carson Beck
One and a
finished
half.
the regular
and a
season
half.
leading the SEC in passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
And look, I think we all know why what happened. There was that stretch in the middle of the
Oh, yeah.
season where
Yeah.
it was Carson Beck was not playing his best football, whether you want to blame that on the fact that Carson Beck sucks or the fact of the
Nah,
offense
it's Bobo.
the offense around him was deteriorating or
I made you spit some
or
water
the
up
offensive
out of there.
coordinator wasn't making the right calls. Like we know, like it is what it is. You can't change that. But Carson Beck is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC currently.
So Dylan Sampson was first team running back. Who was second team? Jalen Milroe?
Ooh, that was a shot.
Wow.
That was a shot.
I mean, was he not the second best running back in this conference?
Raheem Sanders and Le'Veon Moss.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, you can't be mad at that.
I like that self hoop. That was off the board. It was off the backboard right back.
Quintravion Wisner and
back
ETN.
to Papa.
Quintravion Wisner and ETN got there. So, I mean, like, there was
Y'all remember NBA Street? Y'all probably didn't even play NBA Street, did you?
I was an
Very
NFL
little.
Street guy.
Yeah, everyone was. But NBA Street Volume 2 with Dr. J on the front.
Yes. I played very
Boy,
little
we
of
talking
it, but
ball now. We talking ball now. I got film notes. Y'all want these?
Let's hear 'em. This is a big one, actually.
Yeah, I did a film study on Gunner Stockton today. You should go watch it if you haven't already. After tonight's show, make sure you go pay attention to that one. If you haven't watched, if you're one of the few that haven't watched our film study from the first half, feel free to do that as well. I think that one's over 2,000 or 20,000 views. The Gunner Stockton film study, last I checked, was at about 7, so we need to pump those up. Those are rookie numbers. We need to pump those puppies up, okay? So go watch that after tonight's show. And if you have watched a portion of it, definitely go finish it. A lot of people watching Gunner Stockton throw the football, and their first comment is about what, boys?
the elongated motion.
Release.
The elongated motion. And my concern about that was, like, we're gonna create a hindrance in our quick screen game. We're gonna create a hindrance in our quick passing game. And here's the good news. When I went and watched it on tape, anything 15 yards and in, he has a relatively efficient motion, Kirby. He drops it a little bit below the areolas, drops a little bit below the areolas sometimes on those. I mean, you want me to go nips?
Peck line.
Drops it a little bit below the pectoral.
There you go.
Peck line. Peck line.
On those intermediate and below routes. The problem is when he's throwing it deep or throwing it, 15 yards and beyond, tends to get a little bit towards the belt, okay? And that's what we need to eliminate.
When I don't even think it's like the elongation of it. Like, yes, he does have to wind up if he's throwing deep. I think it's the time of the release, too. There were a couple of screens there when he snapped it, and it was like, oh, that's taking longer than you would notice with 15 in there. And that's not necessarily bad. And that might also be something you can fix. Speed of release is something you can fix. The motion of it, I would be more concerned about. But like you said, like, I don't think he tried to chuck it that many times that game either.
Definitely. I mean, didn't have a deep ball in this football game. They tried to run some FIB. We'll talk about that in a second. Kirby, I'm installing what I'm calling the Ripper and the Runner offense. Okay,
right.
Here's what that means. So let's go to the board right quick. Do we have Epic Pen prepared?
Of course we do.
Guys prepped. Guys ready to roll. I think we've been unmuted on the lab all night long. We're actually, we'll stay here. Okay, the runner part of the offense, right? Obviously, Gunner being in the mix and being a threat to use his legs has created some type of hesitancy with the Texas defense on Saturday night. You could see it as soon as he got onto the field. And here was their adjustment as the game started to progress in that second half. They ran a standard 4-2-5, okay, played nickel defense most of the football game, did Texas. And you didn't run a bunch of 12, so they didn't get up out of this. But this was their base alignment in the first half. And as soon as Gunner Stockton got into the football game, what you started to notice with these linebackers' alignment started to bump slightly towards the back. The reason being the threat of the RPO out of the backfield. Now, here's why this is advantageous for your offense, okay? Without this threat, without this bump, your run count on the front side gets really, really cloudy because the backside linebacker has an opportunity to get into the mix. So as an offensive line, we have to account for him, and our combination blocks respond thusly, right? We're going to outblock these two guys. We're going to combo to this Mike. We're going to backside block the end if we don't have a threat to run with the quarterback. And now, as you can see drawing this up, this backside Willie's free. That running back's going to have to run away from him. Whereas if we get this running back involved and we bounce this alignment just a little bit and we make this Will hold just a little bit longer, okay, we're going to have the ability to run away from him on the front side. And you saw that happen in the second half of the football game Saturday night. So why part of those runs started to get a little bit more explosive and a little bit more efficient for Georgia in the second half. But here's where the Ripper part of this discussion comes into this offense that I'm creating over the next 20 days, right? Obviously, we're going to put in quarterback design run. Obviously, we're going to be studying Georgia Tech. Obviously, we're going to be studying Vanderbilt. But in my opinion, Gunner Stockton's best ability as a quarterback, or when he's most comfortable and most efficient, most accurate, is when he can stand 10 toes in it, all right? Stand in it and rip it confidently, okay? Throw it as hard as he possibly can or as hard as he needs to fit it into whatever window. What I don't want to be doing, guys, is asking my quarterback to layer footballs or throw with touch or throw with a tremendous amount of anticipation. That not only requires a lot of, expertise and experience, and that comes with age and time playing. But when you're a young quarterback and I got nice open windows and I can stand with my feet in the ground and really confidently rip the football, that's most ideal. So here are the passing concepts, or the route concepts rather, that I'm going to tailor my offense towards and the routes that I'm going to avoid, okay? Slants. We can get our feet in the ground and really rip that football, right? Hitches. We can get our feet in the ground and really rip that football. Deep comebacks, 10, 15-yard comebacks, 15, back down to 12. Saw some of those Saturday, okay? Bring them back in, maybe some curls, okay? We saw one of those to Arian Smith on Saturday. What I'm avoiding, okay? I'm avoiding deep overs, running to grass, okay? I'm avoiding the third level deep overs that have to get thrown in between and around safeties, okay? Those are the things that I'm avoiding, unless, of course, I'm rolling the quarterback. We can get him downhill, have him throw those balls aggressively towards the later windows. I don't want to be throwing mesh Z spot. That's something that Georgia has lived in with Carson Beck because, hey, that dude can click 1, 2, 3, come back to 4, throw it on time. I don't want to have to ask my young quarterback to do that. Big back shoulder balls, okay? Big 9 routes, we're throwing those. Big time posts, skinnies and bang 8s, we're throwing those. Rail shots from the number 2 wide receivers, we're throwing those. We all understand we are creating an offense where Gunner Stockton can come in and he can be Craig Kimbrell. I want him to feel like he can sit there and throw 98 miles an hour all night long because that's all he needs. He doesn't need a changeup. He doesn't need a slider. We can throw gas all night.
I like it. How would you feel about sail routes in here?
Ball in the right hash.
Yeah.
Throwing the sail
Throwing
back
it
to
to the boundary.
across field. I like that. I don't necessarily like it as much to the boundary because it's a lot more about timing. Mm-hmm. Whereas like throwing those balls to the field, we're going to get to the top of our drop. We're going to throw it with anticipation. We're going to throw the piss up out of it. Mm-hmm. Those would be the types of plays that I'd run.
Now, my question for you is, you're in a very peculiar situation at quarterback right now. I think that goes without saying. There's no need to identify that. Are you going to be hesitant to let Gunner Stockton be, the runner that we kind of think he would be in this offense? Because if you lose Gunner Stockton, you are kind of shit out of luck. Like we saw it. Gunner Stockton went down, had his helmet come off, had to take a play off. They went to a one-arm Carson Beck before they went to the other guys on there. And now that's not an indictment on them as players, but that just shows you what they thought about their quarterback situation at the time. So do you have a hesitancy to make him a runner now because of that?
I'm a Puglisi believer.
Right.
I'm a Puglisi truther. I think that would be fun to watch because I think I'm a tapes and traits guy. Y'all know this about me. If your tape's good and your traits are great, I am rushing to play you. So I love the traits and I love the tape on Puglisi.
And I get that, but are you rushing to play a true freshman in a playoff game?
Well, no, what I'm doing, what I know about this, okay, here is the successful winning recipe for Gunner Stockton. And I don't know if you can win a title unless you successfully do this for 3 straight football games. Mm-hmm. You ready? Okay, 16 for 22, 220 yards passing. That's all I need. Okay, yeah. I need you to protect the football like everybody else, but that's all I need. 16 for 22.
You probably get away with 175 if he's giving you 75 on the ground.
65 yards rushing on 12 attempts. That's what I need. Mm-hmm. 12 true traditional quarterback design runs. And if you run the football that well with your quarterback, you're inevitably going to run the football well as a team. That's another additional, I think, 150 yards from everybody not named Gunner Stockton. Basically, rush for 220, throw for 220. You're not going to get beaten with your defense right now in this college football playoff, except for maybe like an Oregon. I think an Oregon can still score you 42-35. You walk out losing, having watched the other team just score more points.
I mean, hell, if you let Penn State run the ball like they did against Oregon, you're going to be in trouble there too.
Yeah.
There's a good super chub in the chat that you probably would probably pertain to this discussion. So,
Jal Jamud says, yesterday you said Carson had the ability to change plays at the line of scrimmage, meaning he had a good bit of autonomy. Will Bobo give Gunner that same long leash Next year is the important aspect of that question. I think yes. This year, probably not. This year, you're probably trying to get on the ball really quickly so you can use all of that up to 15 seconds of communication with your young quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably see a little bit more no huddle, I would imagine, than you normally do.
And there were some protection checks that he was making, but I don't think there were any.
I don't think they got cleaned up. We saw it on tape.
Yeah.
There was a couple of protection issues that were created. The fumble, I don't know if he called the Mike ID and the offensive line thought something else, but you can see it on tape. He points at the linebacker that hits him, thinking that I think, based off what I saw, he thinks the running back's going there. The offensive line thought they were accounting for him. Bottom line, miscommunication. They get blown up. Hold on. I got some super chubs that apparently I'm missing, so I hope I don't miss these. Bryce says, a call-in show would be awesome, guys. Thoughts? Brooks, I'll see you in New Orleans, section 144, row 4. Go Dogs, love the show. Bryce, I've said it multiple times. I will say it over again. I think the radio call-in market is well spoken for. What?
Apparently, this Dan Mullen news is like pretty official at this point.
Yeah, he's going to be the next head coach at UNLV.
Why? Where's Barry Odom going?
Barry Odom left.
I thought he was at UNLV.
For State? Was it Appalachian?
They just damn near won a conference championship. Where did Barry Odom go?
He's at Purdue.
That's what it was.
He took that job.
I knew it was a black and yellow team.
Man, no wonder that news didn't hit the timeline. It's Purdue. No offense, Barry. But I guess that's good for Dan. That's bad for television. I thought he was good on television.
Yeah, I liked him.
I thought he was far better at television than he was at timeout management.
He must just got the itch.
Yeah, we all got an addiction. Mine's the Zins. Can't put them down.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually football.
You might. Never mind. I'm not going to say it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We might be putting the Zins down soon. Might be putting them down. Just to pick another one back.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're not going clean or anything.
Yeah, we would never go clean. We'd never kick the addictions. Not all of them.
I think, too, like back pertaining to the running Gunner Stockton, do you want to kind of protect him? I think what you saw against Texas, though, is for him to have an impact in the run game, too, you don't even have to have him getting keepers. I mean, he influences the game just by being in there, so I don't think you have to go too hard in the paint on it, but you certainly want him having the ball in his hands multiple times.
I do think you teach him to slide a little better, though.
No.
You don't think so?
No. Foosball player.
That's not how he plays.
This is a guy who asked his first 15 practices on campus. He said, Coach, take the damn black jersey off me. Let these guys hit me. We got a bowl game to prepare for.
And I look.
That's this guy.
I get that, and I love that, and you have that love.
I mean, he was out cold Saturday.
Yes.
And found a way to get up.
There's a picture, I don't know who took it, of him, like, as soon as he hits the ground.
Buddy.
Those eyes were looking at his brain.
He killed, though.
I mean, he looked like he was catching G's on a damn fighter jet.
Whose stock is up, whose stock is down with Stockton in at quarterback?
Well, stock up, I think it's the running backs.
Yes, sir.
Everything gets cleaned up and made easier
Yes,
for you,
sir.
and we saw that. I mean, Trevor Etienne and Nate Frazier had big runs in the second half, and it was because it seemed like Gunner Stockton was in the game, and he was influencing linebackers and other defensive players. So their stock is certainly up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's who I said as well. Trevor Etienne and Nate Frazier. Like, Kirby Smart's always hit on this, is having a quarterback that has not even just like the ability, but the threat of running adds one more player to the box. We saw it. I don't know if you went through it on the film where Trevor Etienne's 50-yard run is the entire reason because that backside end is held just long enough because, oh shit, Gunner Stockton, whereas opposed to Carson Beck, who did keep it a few times, but Gunner Stockton is definitely the runner there, and they know that. Teams know that.
I think the most important change in that second half is what we pointed out, how the safeties were rolling. The safeties, Kirby, weren't rolling opposite of the back. They were rolling to the back because they were keeping the quarterback out of the back for read option. So now you're completely eliminating a safety front side who's always the free hat. It's always a free hat. And he always meets you at 4 yards. And now he's on the backside waiting for the quarterback who doesn't have the football. That's a totally different scenario than what they've been faced with the last 2 years. The last 2 years, backside edge defenders and frontside safeties have been able to run unabated to the ball. Now they cannot. So it's a massive difference in how the other team plays you, which is why I also think a massive stock up for the offensive line. We're going to have people saying, oh, my God, Georgia's offensive line figured it out because they don't know ball. They don't know the idea that the quarterback being in there balanced the run counts everywhere. So, yeah, the running game magically stepped up. I think the tight end stock goes up because of this as well. I think you're going to see a little bit more pop pass action, a little bit more, hey, safeties are drawn up because they're having to add in for the quarterback, and now all of a sudden, boom, tight ends slip out behind them. I also think for that reason, wide receiver stock goes down, but not because the quarterback is, maybe not tailor fit for them, but the opportunities are going to go down. You're going to go from a football team, in my opinion, that was throwing it 30, 35 times a game to a football team that's going to throw it 20 to 25 times a game.
Yep.
So just a numbers thing.
I think your horizontal pass catchers are probably going to benefit from this because your tight ends and the teams that really spread out, go quick. Like the biggest play I thought about this was where they faked that toss sweep to Trevor Etienne or Nate Frazier.
Oh, dude, they ran FIB. He threw it 16 times Saturday. They ran flood into the boundary 4 times.
Yeah.
It's obviously a play that he is comfortable running, and it'll be in the mix.
Yeah, so I think like plays like that where you're going to get tight ends that you can very quickly get it shallow underneath to them is going to be something that you're going to see a lot more in this offense now. I think your middle of the field players are probably going to be affected negatively. Your guys that run the deep overs, the Arian Smiths, like you said. The layered balls are not going to be there. I also think that your screen balls are probably going to get diminished here. Your Dom Lovitts are probably going to suffer from this. It feels like the way if Dom Lovett has 6 touches in a game, 4 of them are because of screens. It just feels that way. I think Dom Lovett, you're probably not going to run as many screens here because we talked about the release time and things like that, and the offensive dynamic is going to change. Also, I think a lot of those screens were checked into by Carson. I don't think that Gunner's going to be doing that.
All right. And I just like 3rd and 3. 3rd and 3 might have been a screenplay against a heavy box previously. 3rd and 3 might be a quarterback run now. So, you know what I mean? It's a totally different style of play. As we noted in that film study, it's like, hey, we're watching Gunner run Carson's offense. Whatever happens in the Sugar Bowl would be Gunner running Gunner's offense. It'll probably look totally different. I hope it looks totally different. If not, your boy's going to be here on Monday criticizing. And I don't like doing that. I don't think I have on a game plan in a long time.
Here's the question. And you might know the answer to this, you might not. Has Georgia been preparing somewhat for the Gunner Stockton experience? Like on the side, okay, we have...
Not since August, I wouldn't imagine.
Okay, I was going to say, we have the Carson Beck playbook. This is the plays that we will run through. This is the sheet that we run through. Yeah. Here's the Gunner Stockton one just in case.
I mean, you've been at these practices. The starting quarterback, if there's 100 reps available, the starting quarterback takes 90 of them.
Yep.
And the 10 reps the backup gets are, hey, go run what we're running this week. Go get a feel for what we're doing this week when you're in there. But no, you don't, unless you're a 2-quarterback system. Like Texas every week has a game plan specifically designed for Arch, you would imagine.
Correct.
This is not what Georgia's been doing all year. Not since August.
So what you're going to see is basically the offensive amalgamation that has been made from Sunday of after the SEC championship to whenever January 1st. I'm like, that's when the offense will have been created.
Dude, I bet they're going back. This is going to sound crazy. This is a real pull from years past, but I bet they go all the way back to practice footage of what they were putting it in for like a Jamie Newman. What was Monken trying to do with Jamie Newman? Do you know what their base personnel was a lot of the time when Jamie was in preseason? They were a 2-back football team.
Ah,
really?
They were a 2-back football team with the quarterback back there because at the time it was James Cook and it was Zamir White and it was Kenny McIntosh, and yeah, it was a 3 running back system because Jamie Newman could take the ball and run with it. By the way, they put 21 into the formation Saturday. They ran FIB out of 21 too. So I would imagine it looks totally different. But good question.
This is gonna be fun.
I think so.
It's weird because it's like
it's either gonna be really fun or catastrophic. No in between.
No, none at all.
By the way, that's what sources were telling me at halftime. Gunner Stockton's gonna win this football game. You can quote me on that, unless it doesn't happen. Because I think it's not boom or bust, but it's either this kid's going to go out and win a lot of football games, or offense you're going to have to win it with defense.
Yeah, I mean it was very obvious. Like from the moment he stepped onto the field, it was all right. It's going to be a sink or swim situation for him here. Like there's not going to be he played all right and everyone else kind of just fluttered around him. Like this team was either going to rally around Gunner Stockton and was going to succeed because of it, or things were not going to go well. And luckily for you, things went very well, and people bought into the Gunner Stockton experience now.
All right.
But I was saying before we move on, like,
oh my bad,
this is a weird vibe because it feels like a new season is starting. And I know there's the cliche of the off seasons or the postseason is completely new season. This genuinely feels like a new season. This feels like you have questions at quarterback right now. Like if Carson Beck were starting in this game, you would say, okay, we know kind of what Georgia's offense is going to try to do. We know what the personnel is going to look like. We know who the guys are, who the guys aren't. You're coming into this with we have an idea of what the quarterback is. We have an idea of what they want to do, but we don't really know what personnel is going to match up and what is going to be kind of popular within that.
Yeah, imagine being Notre Dame or Indiana. I mean, you're gonna have to project what the coordinator is gonna do. That's a scary thing to have to do.
That's why the first round bye is so important for Georgia, because they get the next 3 weeks to implement this. Indiana right now is trying to prepare for their next football game of what they have coming up, and then Notre Dame is doing the same thing, and then they're going to have a week to try and prepare for what Georgia's trying to do.
The other thing worth noting here is that normally when you play a bowl game, you have 15 practices. You have 15 practices. They asked Kirby, I don't think there's a limit on what they can do. I think they can do whatever they want over the next 20 days, 23 days. They can practice all 23 days. They can do whatever they want. I don't think there's any limitations. I think that's worth noting as you go in and try to, essentially create a new offense.
Do you think the fact that, and we talked about this kind of at the start of the season, Georgia went through this period in spring practice and leading into the fall camp of they're trying to figure out who their guys are right now, where they kept play calling in scrimmages kind of vanilla because they wanted to see who ran what well. Do you think you're going to see something like this, or is it going to be, hey, we need guys to make plays right now, so we're going to have to find out very quickly?
You're talking about in practice?
Correct.
I think this week is about cleaning up whatever areas they had, issues, problem areas, and then let's grind these young players right quick and see if anybody's become ready over the last 12 weeks.
You got a secret weapon.
Right?
Yeah.
Who is taking it upon themselves to develop in the dark and is ready to play for us right now, while you get everybody else, licking their wounds and everybody else is taking some time and some breathers. These twos, these guys who have been on the precipice of playing, this week would have been, hey, let's grind you guys. Let's see what y'all got. Let's see who's ready to make an impact on this roster.
And do you think that plays an advantage to you or the other team? Because you still have to kind of try to figure out who your guys are.
Anytime you find winnable players mid-year, that's beneficial to you, and that's detrimental to your future opponent because they don't know who to prepare for or what to prepare for.
Yeah.
So I would go on that
And meanwhile,
side.
the two teams that are worried about you right now aren't preparing for you.
No, they're in dogfights. They're entrenched in warfare. I got a top 5 matchups. We're ranking the matchups, the 5 opponents on your side of the bracket, 1 through 5.
All right.
1 being the toughest, 5 being the easiest matchup. I got number 5, Boise. I got number 4, Indiana. I got number 3, SMU. Number 2, Penn State. Number 1, Notre Dame. Spoiler alert, that is our film study coming up next. I took a look at Notre Dame's defense today.
Sorry, so why do you think Notre Dame is a harder challenge?
Them boys can strap, dude. Them boys can cover. That's probably the best coverage unit in college football right now. And here's how I know they think they can cover. I think I saw them play 3. I watched 35 snaps today. I saw 3 snaps that weren't cover 1. They walk out there with Christian Gray and their sophomore number 15, who's 6'2", 205, and they look you straight in your face and say, there's no way you're going to beat us today. Now, the only thing that would worry me if I were a Notre Dame fan, they got no ass. They got no ass. They got no size in the middle of their defensive line, and they also don't have a uniquely talented edge rusher. They don't have anybody that can create consistent pressure. Their leading sack guy is their defensive tackle, who, by the way, no ass, 6'6", 295 pounds. No ass. They don't got a 300-pounder one on the roster that plays meaningful minutes.
Are they a press man team or just a –
no, they're in your face. They're in your face, bump and run all night long.
I would say that's probably advantageous to Notre Dame in that aspect because you
ain't got nobody beating press man right now at Georgia.
That's reared its ugly head numerous times throughout the season. I think that's why you struggle to pull away in overtime because of that. So I think that does play advantageous to Notre Dame. And then here comes the classic, but who have they played?
I'm with you.
Has Notre Dame's defensive roster seen a offensive roster? Now,
hey, man, USC gave them problems. USC rushed for, I think, over 250 yards and threw for almost 300. So they gave them problems. That's the film that we're going to watch. And you're going to leave being very, very impressed with Jaden Maeva. He does some really fun stuff on tape. But no, they are really susceptible to teams that can run the football because, like I said, no ass. They ain't got no meat in the middle.
Yeah, I had Penn State over Notre Dame, just because
they got the meat.
Yeah, they got the caliber of guys that you would typically see on an SEC field, and they've been impressive. I know that they've had some struggles, and maybe the offense hasn't been as consistent, but I think that they can match you body for body on either side of the football.
I would agree with that. I wanted to put Penn State at the 1 simply because what you saw them do in the running game against Oregon was very scary, because you would have to imagine that Oregon, if there was a college football team in this playoff right now that is quote-unquote built the way Georgia is, it's Oregon. And they had a lot of success running the football. That 1-2 punch at running back, one of my friends said, this looks like 2017 Georgia. So that would be worrisome to me, but I do agree that Notre Dame's defense is probably going to be what causes you issues more.
I'm almost excited to watch Oregon's defense and to see whether or not they're conceding the run. I felt like in some of these football games, based off game plan alone, they're like, all right, they might run for 300 yards today, but they're not going to throw for 150, so we're going to beat them. Now, some of that stuff got exposed Saturday night against Penn State, particularly in the second quarter. They gave up a bunch of points, so I'm with you. I don't expect, though, Oregon's rush defense to look that porous moving forward.
I don't think so.
Some portal names and notes from today. Dylan Lonergan hit the portal today. I can guarantee you, as a quarterback from Brookwood High School that Georgia was in on until they realized they had an opportunity with Arch Manning, that I can almost 100% guarantee they gave a phone call to. I probably didn't wait any time on that one. They felt that one out.
Is that you're giving a phone call to, or is that like, hey, this is like a giving a phone call to cover the bases, or like a,
hey, where you at?
Okay.
Where you at? What are your intentions? What are you looking for in your next school? I'm sure there were some questions in return of, will I actually have an opportunity to play here? Things like that. If I am in Dylan Lonergan's camp, if I were anywhere involved with him, he'd be going to a place that has already promised us starting time, like a Boston College, okay, where your former offensive coordinator who you committed to is the head coach up there in the form of Bill O'Brien, and they are obviously in need of a starting quarterback. That's the place I would go to as Thomas Castellanos commits to Florida State.
Yeah. You have to at least give a phone call to that one. Again, like you talk about the profile of what Georgia looks for in potential portal candidates. That is one of them that you tried recruiting out of high school, you were interested in. That gets back in the portal. You got to at least see what's happening there.
Do you do that, though, with your Gunner Stockton situation now?
I gave my take yesterday, or what was it, yesterday or Sunday? I think the decision has been made. The die has been cast. It was made for you. I think it would be mismanagement to go the next 20 days telling Gunner Stockton that you believe in him, that he has the team and the faith of everyone in the building, and that they believe he can go win a national title, whilst simultaneously recruiting his potential backup or his potential replacement. That, to me, seems counterproductive to everything that they're trying to do right now.
But would it not be counterproductive to do the same thing and say, hey, Gunner, whenever the time comes, you are our guy, and then say, turn around and go get Jaden Rashada in the portal as well? Like, I understand that it's a different dynamic because he's a starter now for you in that aspect, as opposed to being a 2 or a 3 and then going and getting another guy. But is it not similar in that aspect?
It's not similar in that aspect in my mind, because you're in a college football playoff right now. Bringing Jaden Rashada in July when you're already the 2 is a total different discussion than I'm the starter right now because our starter got hurt. We're going to play for a national title. Everyone in the building's telling me I'm the guy and they believe in me and that I can go do this, but I'm not the guy for 2025. You don't think I can go win next year?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I get that.
It would be such a – and look, this is the University of Georgia, and it's competition everywhere, competition all the time, but these are still humans. These are still human beings that have emotions, and I don't think I would want to bring that. I think you're playing with fire if you do that.
I agree. And it makes total sense as to why you wouldn't, but, I mean – Kirby loves that fourth quarterback. And maybe that's why you got 2 guys in this class this year. So you go into 2025, you'd assume with Gunner, if Rashada sticks around, and then, or Gunner Puglisi, if Rashada sticks around, great. And then your two signees that you have. So, I mean, maybe you have to assume that someone in that room is going to depart come 2025.
Yeah, I think it's very beneficial that you did get 2 quarterbacks in this class now, because you will have 4 bodies next year. Even if a guy leaves out of that room, you will have 4 bodies next year with Gunner Stockton, Puglisi / Rashada, or maybe you end up keeping all of them as well. So I think the bodies having depth right now, I don't think that has to be a concern.
Another football player spent 1 year at LSU after transferring from Liberty. C.J. Daniels in the portal. Reports are that Georgia contacted him today as well.
Yeah, he had a really solid year at Liberty, his final year at Liberty.
Why haven't I heard that y'all calling Arden Key yet? Why ain't Pete Nakos out here tweeting about that one? Why we giving phone calls to C.J. Daniel, but Arden Key ain't got one?
Mm-hmm.
If we're expecting all these to be true. If we take every report for face value and merit. Where that phone call at?
I don't know.
Because Arden Key a guy. C.J. Daniels a guy? Question mark?
He put up like 450 at LSU.
Yeah, a guy. Question mark. Dane Key, not Arden Key. I always want to do that. Football brain. Apparently we have nostalgia tape.
We do?
Do we not?
I guess not.
I mean, we can find it right now. I thought you had a name. Didn't you have a name?
Did we already do? We did do that one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we're pulling up.
Y'all are done?
We're pulling up a nostalgia.
Sure?
Yes.
We're good?
Yes.
Okay.
If you'll give us 30 seconds.
Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribing, rating, reviewing, all that. Apparently, I called him Arden Key on the SI article today, by the way. That's classic. That's classic football brain, doing football brain things to me. We gave end-of-season awards. I want to give an end-of-season award to this channel. We've gone up 20,000 subscribers this season alone.
Hell yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty sick.
That's pretty daggum cool. So, yeah. Are we ready for that?
Pending right now.
Damn ads.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, I do appreciate Huddle stopping the tobacco ads. They still running in the quit dipping, you're going to lose your teeth ads?
I haven't seen one.
Okay, thank God. They were making me nervous for a while. I was like, damn, you're sending me messages. I'll quit. I mean, I will, Huddle. I will.
Okay.
Oh, we got some kickoff coverage, or is this a kick return coverage? Oh, man. Who we got? Oh, my God, who's 56? Who is 56? Is 56 the guy we're watching today, or are we watching? Oh, that's Arian Smith. Yeah, that's Arian Smith. I'm eyeing this 56 on kick return. Watch this sumbitch right here. Look at this dude. Tell me this ain't Leonard Floyd covering kickoffs right quick.
Oh, the one? Holy shit.
Watch him kill someone. Oh, come on, son. And then Arian Smith. Yeah, that's him. There's a play on his junior highlight tape. I think it's a pick. And he runs it down from the backside. It's the fastest clip I've ever seen of a human being on a football field. It's crazy. And on the end around right here.
Yeah, you ain't got a chance.
Nah, you ain't catching my boy.
I mean, that is an Arian Smith highlight. Right?
Man really sacrificed an Olympic running career. He's a 10 flat guy his freshman year at Georgia, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a 10 flat guy at 18 years old, you're probably a 9'7" guy in your prime. Maybe a 9'6", 8" guy.
Hey, football's fun though, man.
Football be fun. I don't know. He don't ever really look like he's having fun while he's playing though. I ain't gonna lie to you. Except for when he catches the ball and then he gives the big Arian Smith flex. That's always nice. Is this? Oh no, he just blew past the guy. But we should have known, Kirby. We should have known on this clip right here. You know why?
Let me watch it one more time.
You know why?
Let's see.
We should have known.
Oh, dude, you can't let that go into your body.
Body catching.
You got to high point that.
Yank. Oh, no twitch. No wiggle. No wiggle. Man, he's a hellified punt return cover, though. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ain't nobody forced more fair catches in their career than Arian Smith.
That's big fact.
Facts?
He'll be like, people say what you want about him. Arian Smith is going to be on an NFL roster for as long as he wants to be because of that.
I mean, I'm not going to fight you because John Ross played for 10 years. You know?
I mean, Chris Conley's doing it right now. And
Whoa.
Chris Conley is
Chris Conley is
elite at route running.
Well, he's also 6'4", 220 pounds and is willing to stick his face mask into people on kickoff.
For sure.
Totally different animal.
My point is that if you can make a living on special teams, you will be in the league for a very, very long time. Like, physicality and play like on offense be damned.
For every drop he's had an important play elsewhere. I
Exactly.
feel.
That's why I said I'll never criticize him because there's a lot of moments in Georgia history that you don't have without Aaron Smith.
You probably don't beat Ohio State without Aaron Smith.
You don't beat Ohio State without Javon Bullard.
Or Brock Bowers or Stetson Bennett.
No, just Javon Bullard. All those other guys made impacts on that football game, but Marvin Harrison not playing in the last 2 quarters was the biggest impact in that football game.
Oh, are you one of those people?
No, I'm just one of those people that Georgia had zero answer for the combination of C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison until they didn't exist. Now, you created that by playing physical football. You earned the right to have him out of the football game. However, it was a different ball game when he was on the field. Think we can all agree?
I think he only had like 2 catches in the second half.
He got knocked out midway through the third.
That was a 4th.
Was it?
Yeah, it was later in the game
I'll
than you
shut up
think.
then.
I
shut
think
up
you're
then.
thinking like second half started, Marvin Harrison got knocked out and the game changed. Like, no, things were still chugging along on offense without Marvin Harrison. Now, I could be wrong, but I remember that very differently. I remember Marvin Harrison ate you.
Chat's on your side. Chat says you're right.
I remember Marvin Harrison ate you alive in the first half, and then the second half things got very locked down.
Keely Ringo put clamps on Marvin Harrison Jr. for 3 quarters. Is this fact?
I
feel like he would have been a top 32 pick if that were the case.
I don't remember.
Either way, we had a good week.
Good week.
Good week.
Good week. You taking tomorrow off?
Oh, as in like, am I going to come in?
Yeah, we're going to do Notre Dame defensive film study tomorrow.
Go spend some time with your wife.
Okay. I mean, if you make me. I love you, honey. All right. That's it for the show. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. I love you. Bye.